Good morning, Denver. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show and KUS. It is 6 a.m. on this Monday, April 8th. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's going to be a beautiful day in the Mile High City, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app and grab your coffee. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We've got a whole lot to cover, including some breaking news. President Trump coming out with his position on abortion just about an hour ago on Truth Social. We're going to cover that issue, as well as Patty Calhoun, editor of Westword, is going to join us in the 6 o'clock hour. 7 o'clock hour, Joshua Sharf on Israel, giving us an update there from the Independence Institute. And then you may know this name, Matt Arnold. Matt Arnold's a wild card out here in Colorado. He has filed FEC complaints against Republicans in the past. He's going to detail what this FEC complaint against Dave Williams, the chairman of the Colorado GOP, is all about in the 8 o'clock hour. So a really busy, full morning. Bill, did you have a good rest of your weekend? We were together on Saturday.
Yeah, we were. It was a busy weekend. Did some stuff, other radio stuff I had to do. And yesterday, I went to the Rocky Mountain Train Show with my mother. Yeah.
It like was model train or big train?
No, model trains. And nice. The reason being, my father was a huge model train enthusiast and fairly meticulous about his collection. He's got some good stuff, but my mom doesn't have the space. I don't have the space. My brother doesn't have the space, and my brother and I don't really have the interest. So we went there to talk to vendors and things about what is the best way to liquidate the collection and how do we know. And those were good conversations, but it was neat because most of the conventions I go to have to do with reptiles, but it's interesting to see the same dynamics. So it was the same kind of ecosystem, just a completely different group of weirdos. And so that was kind of cool to see. And one of the things I enjoy the most, and I always do this at the reptile expos and any other expos I go to, I want to see the tangential products that have spawned. The idea being, okay, this is a train expo. Okay, you're not here selling trains or train models. What else can you sell that's going to appeal to that group? And so there were some train antiques. There were some really cool stuffed animals, T-shirts, lots of tchotchke things. And that I just find enjoyable. I'm like, what if you created, you've started a little business, and you've glommed onto this major kind of expo thing, and you come here and you sell your stuff. What's that stuff and why? I just find that interesting. So I spend probably too much time wandering around looking at the stupid things because I'm just curious about it. I'm like, what kind of little things will, you're like, hey, these people like trains, I can sell them this. What's this small business that you have created? So I thought that was fun. I know that you went to the Nuggets game Saturday. How was that?
Saturday night, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. I was enjoying the Nuggets game while the rest of the Republicans were still counting ballots down there. Dude, you and I talked to the guy, and we both had the same look on our face. I could tell just by the tone of your voice. You guys are going to hand count all the ballots?
Yeah.
So here's where I need some help from our listeners, 710 KNUS. Were you there all the way through? Like, when did the state assembly finally end?
Are they still counting? Do we know?
Are they still counting down there?
Yeah. And I loved the optimism of the gentleman involved. He was like, yes, we're going to do this, and we're going to get these people to do this. And I'm thinking, you're not going to get a heck of a lot of volunteers. You're going to be repeat volunteers after doing this. If you're volunteering, and if you're going to pay them, once you see the total of the labor involved based on the number of hours, you're not going to want to pay them again, because that's why they stopped paying them in the first place, because it was an expense. It was a huge expense to do that. So
we got this, Joan from Lakewood. Good morning. I'm still recovering from the state GOP assembly on Saturday.
Oh, good.
The best thing that happened for me personally was the election of Christy Fedora, Ruckus Fedora, with 56% of assembly to serve the next 4 years as national committee woman for Colorado.
You were right. That was the real tension one.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
And Sergey's last name I can't pronounce, win of CD7 with 91%. CD7, That's okay. That's Brittany Pedersen's district.
Okay.
Because it shows that Republicans are becoming more united in their support to elect Republicans. Christy Ruckus is a symbol of the turning of the GOP to younger women that are coming to the party, and her speech was positive and uplifting. Randy Corcoran was elected as National Committee Man of Colorado. I'd love to get your thoughts of what that experience was like. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. How late did that go? Because they didn't have to count for that many races. But by 11 o'clock, I think I'd gone to bed, and it's still, they voted at like noon.
Yeah, it was like noon. Yeah.
And by 11 o'clock at night, they still. So at this point, have you gone through that experience and you're still like, yeah, let's do hand counting again?
And again, if you want,
it took 11 hours to count one ballot.
If you want us to wait a month for the election results for president, then keep yelling about hand counting, because it will take at least a month. It could be it could be 6 weeks. It could be 2 months, because again, you're counting millions of ballots, and this is just thousands. And not even over 10,000.
Right.
But yeah. And it's taking this long. So
that seemed wild. And then, of course, Twitter all over the reporter from the Colorado Sun being escorted out. She technically did not have a credential. There was no real guidance on who got credentials or not. I walked in and I go, I'm with media. And they're like, all right, just write down the media you're with. And I was like, all right, Kane, yes. And
exactly.
I just walked right in. There was no dedicated person, I think, looking through the media there. And once they realized the Colorado Sun was there, they asked them to leave. And the reporter did not originally. And so they had to go get the police to escort her out. And then all of Twitter blew up about that.
Like, the visual is great.
Hickenlooper.
The visual is fantastic. I saw the pictures, and and that's the issue. The visual is fantastic. And again, whether or not Fish, the reporter that was there, refused on some actual integrity or saying, or did the refusal because she knew the visual that was coming. Either way, okay, I understand why you played it that way. I get it. And I understand why, after being granted access and then being told and no, but not. And from what I understand, though, I'm not certain that she was told personally, like it was messages. So there was that's just I'm not sure if I'm accurate on that. And the only reason I say that is because that then allows plausible deniability. If there was a one-on-one human interaction, then she's going there specifically to violate. But she can always, if they were messages or emails that were sent, can always say, well, I didn't get them. I didn't know. So there's plausible deniability. And I thought that was what the narrative was. I'm not accusing her of doing one or the other. I'm just saying not making personal contact and hearing her voice allows her to do that, in my opinion. And I would say that anybody that is conservative or liberal, that's a reporter that was in the same situation and you're not contacted personally, go. Absolutely. Make them throw you out. Make them throw you out. That was the other thing that was fun. They can throw you out. It's a private group.
It is. Yeah, it is. They have every right. George Brockler tweeted about it this morning. What's the actual First Amendment violation? Because what you got from a lot of liberals, John Hickenlooper, the head of the Democrats here in Colorado, this was some big, massive First Amendment violation that the Democrats would never do. We stand with the Constitution. So this bizarre overreaction.
Democrats would do it. Absolutely, they would.
Well, we may find that.
Yeah,
and it's weekend, actually.
What did you think of Christy Burton? Well, I'll get that. We have to get to police news. Because Christy made it split the hair very interestingly in her statement. Yeah, it was really interesting how she split the hair. But I don't want to. Yeah,
we only had an editor coming on here in a few minutes.
I know. If only.
Patricia Calhoun will be joining us, editor of the Westword, in just a minute. Up next, the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake. Did you watch the game last night?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Watched a lot of stuff over the weekend. Good to talk to both of you guys. Sound good. 33 and clear in Denver. Expecting highs in the upper 50s. The solar eclipse starts at 11:28 this morning. Don't look up unless you have special viewing glasses. It'll be a partial eclipse in Colorado. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, more than 64,000 Coloradans lost power over the weekend, and about 55,000 waking up in the dark this morning after a strong windstorm knocked down trees and power lines, of course. Some turned power off on purpose to prevent wildfires. Boulder County was the most affected over the weekend. Excel expects to have 80 to 90% of the power back on by tonight. The wind sparked several fires, at least 2 in Evergreen. In Edgewater, a downed power line sparked a house fire. No one was injured. Passengers on a Southwest flight from DIA Sunday experienced a scary moment when a part fell off the plane and damaged the wing flap during takeoff. No one was injured. The Boeing 737-800 returned to DIA and was towed to the gate. The incident is being investigated. A 12-year-old boy died Saturday night when a truck crashed into Clear Creek near Empire, near the I-70 off-ramp. The child was trapped in a submerged vehicle. Despite lifting the vehicle and removing the boy, he was pronounced dead at a local hospital. Dynamic tolling on the Central 70 Express lane begins today. The 10-mile stretch through Denver and Aurora is the first to use this real-time pricing model. The cost will change based on traffic conditions. It'll range from $1.50 to $5.50. President Biden in Wisconsin today announcing a new student loan forgiveness program. It comes after the Supreme Court stopped his previous attempt at a student debt program. The news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 26 in Boulder, 30 in Aurora, 33 in Denver. Glendale police looking for a Hispanic woman, 20 to 25 years old, with a possible hoop ring in her right nostril. She's a suspect, one of 3 suspects in the murder of 20-year-old Gianni Fernandez, who was killed Friday in his apartment. South Carolina defeats Caitlin Clark and Iowa in the NCAA Women's Championship last night. Undefeated season for South Carolina, and head coach Dawn Staley wins her 3rd championship. Tonight, it's the men's championship, Purdue and UConn. The Nuggets at the Jazz tomorrow. Avs take on the Wild tomorrow, and the Rockies and D-backs tonight at Coors Field at 6:40.
Bill, Blake, that game on South Carolina and Iowa, it was pretty amazing. I mean, it came down to the tall players in the paint. Yes. I think that's ultimately what took South Carolina. They could out rebound the Iowa girls. No question. Caitlin didn't seem to be hitting the 3-pointers as well. But this is a fascinating moment. I think this has been a pivotal changing moment for women's basketball, because it was just as exciting as watching men's basketball, in my opinion.
Right. No doubt. Clark brought more eyes, non-sports fans and kind of people who had really never watched women's basketball before. And you're right. The bigs in the paint yesterday for South Carolina, pretty impressive.
They had
on the rebound.
They have one player that's 6'7".
Oh man,
a woman player that's 6'7".
You know, we have a couple in Colorado the past 5 years, 6'9" Division I players.
Really?
Yeah. And the thing about them, these girls, it's not like they're bean poles. I mean, they are strong. You know, they're solid. So, you know, they box out and you're going to get bumped around. And they did a great job. South Carolina did a great job. Undefeated season, crashing the boards and kind of establishing themselves physically. So a great game. It was a lot of fun.
Boys tonight, right?
Yep. Men's tonight should be a good one. Not a big UConn fan, so I'm going to go for Purdue in that one. So it should be a lot of fun. You guys continue. Jeff and Bill continue right here. And I'm Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
710 5-day forecast, a high wind watch Saturday morning through Sunday morning. Partly cloudy today, windy and warm. We're going to be well into the 70s. South winds today, 15 to 30, gusts to 45 miles an hour. Windy tonight, a low near 40. Areas of rain and snow showers Saturday morning. Colder, 40s and 50s, then very, very windy. Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into Sunday, windy, colder through that whole period with showers possible. I'm meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
All right, so getting into the big news, diving into the details here, we're still trying to figure out what happened over at Westword that they would want to give Jeff and Bill Talk Radio Show of the Year award.
Yeah, I kept refreshing the page, going, "This is just the placeholder. This is just they were good."
Someone was goofing works around. Out well.
Yeah, so someone was goofing around and just said, "I will put this clown show here for a bit, and then we'll eventually replace it with some sort of real broadcast show that happens." Yeah, it's like they can't be right.
Joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show is a good friend of the program and editor of Westword, Patty Calhoun. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that big check.
Yeah, so are we. It's on the way. Yeah, it's in the mail.
No, okay. that was absolutely wonderful and a nice surprise. And the dynamic over here, Patty, was excitement and people high fiving and they take those awards seriously. I mean, Westword is a serious publication, and it's one that I've respected. Mike Roberts and I have had a good working relationship for years, and I've always felt that Westword respected our positions over at the Centennial Institute, covered us fairly. I never really had any critique ever, and I'm open about my critiques of some of the media in Colorado, but you've done a very good job with Westword, and so I think when that honor came through, it meant something to us. So we wanted to tell you we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's some people here at the radio station that now are talking to me again. So I appreciate that. Thank you. It was a good bonus.
Well, that's certainly good news. You know, the Best of Denver is our annual orgy of niceness. It's just things we truly like, and we never know exactly what will be in the issue. Everyone keeps notes all through the year, and then when the deadline comes around, we look at our notes and we think, who deserves it? What deserves it this year? We don't repeat every topic every year. This one we thought it was a good time to bring back talk show hosts because podcasts have kind of taken over where recorded radio talk show has taken over where live talk is. And I still think it really is important to the community that people can get real-time discussion going. And you guys are doing a good job.
Oh, thank you. I think that's where Jeff and I are trying to lean into as well, as the idea of the real-time discussion, because that doesn't exist in the podcast world. Even in many of the stream world, you don't necessarily have that one-on-one communication and dialogue because all you really get to do is text. There are some shows out there that say they take calls on the podcast, but they do it pre-recorded. You call a number, you leave a message, and then they converse with you. There are very few that have segments where they try to actually do live calls, and that's all we do. And there's something about running live without a net that makes this more interesting and more fun, because if the podcaster doesn't like the segment, the interview, the conversation, they can edit it out. We don't. We have to go talk to Kelly after the show. That's what happens to us.
Right. No, I think it's a very important service. We're glad you're doing it. We can't wait to see what trouble you get in the next year.
That's me. That'll be on me.
And we're included on the list for best exorcist. So if you need, and you guys reference the Archdiocese of Denver, but it's a full list of everything from shopping and services to food and entertainment. The very best of Denver. If you go to westword.com, it's right there on the front page, westword.com. Patty, I wanted to get your take on what happened to Sandra Fish over the weekend. What was your thoughts on that? Sandra Fish, being the reporter, escorted out by the sheriff's deputy after being told that the Colorado GOP chairman doesn't like her reporting.
Well, on one hand, you think lucky that she didn't have to sit through the whole rest of that afternoon, which didn't look like it was that much fun. But lucky on one hand, ridiculous on another. It is not like Sandra Fish is some gadfly masquerading as a journalist. She's a professor. She writes for the Colorado Sun. She is a true journalist, whether or not, a lot of people don't like what people write, but Sandra Fish is a pro. And you don't boot people because you don't like what they say. If you're the Colorado Republican Party, you should really be open to having public reporting on what you're doing. I do know, there have been other things like the Colorado Independent in the early days wasn't able to get legislative credentials. I mean, there are a lot of people who sometimes make it a little clubby, but that's actually usually it's the mainstream media that has the clubs. It's not the political parties who should be happy for any coverage they get.
Talking with Patty Calhoun. She's the editor of Westword. We're talking about the incident that happened over the weekend. Reporter Sandra Fish was escorted out by a sheriff's deputy at the Colorado GOP Assembly. I saw Heidi Beadle there. Heidi came by. It's a trans woman, took a picture of me at one point, and I said, Heidi, come here. You can't just take a picture. You got to come say hi. And so we had a very nice conversation, and Heidi has not always said nice things about me, but Heidi was allowed to be there throughout the entire thing. So it was a little interesting, the state GOP kind of picking and choosing who they wanted to be at the event. Patty, why do you think there's a breakdown of trust with media?
Oh, I wouldn't say so much this is a breakdown of trust. I would say this is much more personality issue with Dave Williams. But I'll say this, when we started Westword, we weren't considered a real publication because we were free. Now think about that. What isn't free now? I mean, you're free on the air. You would still think you are a respectable media outlet.
Oh, no. Well, you're way too... No, we're not respectable media at all.
Yeah. And again, most of my fault.
It's one of those things. There is a Colorado Press Association. People can get credentialed. But Sandra Fish, there's no question she's a legitimate journalist. If you're going to let in one journalist, you should be letting in all journalists to an event like that. So I don't think that's a public mistrust of the media in general. I think that's a personality conflict.
In that particular case, yeah, you're right. I think I was looking more at, I saw the poll by Gallup that a record number of Americans, I think it's 36%, have no trust in media whatsoever. So they have strong trust in media, kind of trust in media, and then no trust in media, and then no trust has reached a record high. Why do you think that's taking place among the general public?
Well, I think that's partly because the definition of media has become so broad.
Right.
So,
it includes people like us.
Yes, it includes people like you. But part of the point, it includes some of this social media stuff. You don't know where it's coming from. It could be AI. It could be complete fakes. And that's one of the issue now. People don't know where their information is coming from unless they're going back to a relied on and trusted source. But there are all kinds of things hitting you from all different directions, which is why I would argue most people need to read or listen to or hear more than one outlet. Find three, and somewhere between them you'll come up with a balance.
I'm also interested in your take on the growth of self-publishing, self-broadcasting, self-media. So I looked on places like Twitter, for instance, people like Andy No, the journalist that has covered Antifa and Portland stuff. He's got a big following. People seem really connected to wanting to follow individual journalists now, and publications, Washington Post, New York Times, Denver Post, not so much. And so they seem to be leaning more towards individual journalists. Is that your sense, or do you think that people are still strongly connected to publications?
I think people are still strongly connected to larger media outlets. Maybe not strongly, but they're still going, they're going to Fox News. They're going to CNN. They're going to MSNBC. They're not going as much as they used to, but they still go to the Washington Post. They go to the New York Times. But you do find people you like who maybe have a Substack, maybe have their own website, maybe have their own blog, maybe have their own just Instagram account, where people do like them. And the problem is if you're only hearing from one voice, and I think that's one media outlet or truly one person's voice, you are not getting balanced views of the world. So you need to digest more than one thing a day.
Now, Patty Calhoun, editor of Westword, joining Jeff and Bill this morning. I have a question for you about the evolution of the press. You've seen it go from multiple newspapers here in Colorado to our friend the Denver Post struggling to even keep subscriptions going. And everything's turning more towards online. I'm following up on Jeff's idea of the silo of information. I want you to address both the positives and the negatives of what you've seen in the evolution in that media space. What has been a huge advantage of getting rid of some of these big giant papers and large newsrooms, and what's been the big disadvantage that we may not be seeing right now in all the, because we have tons and tons of news at our fingertips. We've had more news available to us than we ever have before, but also we've got more crap available to us than we ever have before. What's that evolution been like from your side?
Well, let's go to first the what we used to have that was good. So you would have with the Denver Post, you had a reporter covering each county, at least one reporter covering at least each county in the metro area. So you would actually know what went on at the city council meetings in those counties. So you had papers of record where if you wanted to find out things that were happening, you could go to the Denver Post and you would at least know that basics of government. You don't hear that. You don't see that now in the Post. It's tiny. You know, it used to have what I think on Sunday it would print 400,000 copies. Now it's printing 50,000 copies. And there are so few reporters. So you just don't see that kind of blanket coverage. It's the same to some extent with the local TV networks where you used to have big staffs. They didn't cover every city council meeting, but they certainly covered so much more of what was going on. So when you lose those papers of record, you do lose the watchdogs on a lot of government institutions, and also just simply basic reporting on here's what happened without judgment of who's doing good or bad. You're just saying they voted to increase school lunches. We're not learning that. So that's bad. We don't have the major media outlets that used to be papers of record that would give basic info. What you do get now, because of technology, people can do podcasts. People can do websites. They can decide if they're in Lakewood, they're going to set up a website that just covers Lakewood City Council. It's kind of easy to create your own newspaper, except it's online. It's only read by a few people. So how do you let people know they're out there? So you have more options, but you've got to read so many more of those options to get the bigger picture you used to get from mainstream media.
Patty, that's really good. I appreciate that. And I want to kind of give you the magical Harry Potter hat. And we're going to look back in time and visiting that part of the time in which those papers started to struggle and fail. Hindsight's 2020. Looking back, what advice would you have given those papers, those owners, about saving themselves? Because we now know the damage and everything that has happened since then. Was there a way to save themselves?
Sure. Greed heads didn't have to sell their publications to hedge funds. They could have figured out how to maybe be more realistic in their budgeting. Small local papers didn't have to consolidate. It's interesting now that smaller, littler papers for communities are actually doing better than big papers for bigger cities. So the niche publications, people still want to read about their mom and pop shops. They want to see advertising from their mom and pop shops in their neighborhood. So it's not easy, but those smaller niche publications could have, a lot of them could have survived. You're losing hundreds of papers every month around the country. And that's partly because people also didn't recognize what competition the web would be and that free access to information. So they didn't figure out how to survive with web advertising. But I would say greed was a big deal, ownership greed.
Yeah, I can see that as well. And it's interesting you brought in the idea of the niche local papers, because in the radio industry, we see that as well. The small market radio stations that have small owners, their profit margins are much higher than the large owners of places like, iHeart and Odyssey and stuff. The small radio station in Pueblo that is locally owned has a much better profit margin than the locally owned, the local stations that are owned by iHeart. It's really interesting to see that that's revenue dynamic there. Now, I want to focus a little bit when you talked about, hey, it's great that we have individual reporters. Everybody can start a podcast. I want your remarks on the idea of presenting news and reporting, because I think some of the danger that we have in media is when everybody can be a reporter, nobody can be a reporter. Just because everybody can start their own internet podcast, their own internet radio station, their own internet newspaper, it really means in some ways everybody. And I think it discounts the actual work of people that are doing it, on a larger scale.
Well, that's true too. And there are no editors. So
Yeah.
there really is, we do fact check. We do look for the who, what, when, where, why. People might not disagree with the approaches of various publications, but when there are more people involved, you tend to get a more balanced viewpoint, or certainly a more vetted viewpoint. Our reporters, not me, but our reporters went to journalism school. So they are trained in some of the very basic skills, which is the who, what, when, where, why, how to find documents, how to tell a news story so people understand it better. And the problem is when you look at something that is just put out by one person, you don't know. Maybe they tell you what their credentials are, maybe they tell you what their motivations are, but often you don't know.
Now, Patty Calhoun, editor of Westword, joining Jeff and Bill. Want to bring us back to the beginning of the conversation about Ms. Fish, the reporter from Colorado Sun, being expunged from the GOP State Assembly in Pueblo over the weekend. I want you to talk about, if you could, last question, a little bit of the reaction on both sides. And I feel both sides kind of got it wrong. One being, I saw a lot of liberals, in my opinion, losing their mind over this being a First Amendment free speech issue, which it really isn't. But on the other side, I saw the conservatives, I guess I would say, reinforcing an existing stereotype by taking a reporter and kicking him out. The party that trumpets free speech and censorship and people not letting us have a voice turns around and then fulfills the existing stereotype of we don't really believe that by kicking out a reporter. Can you comment on both of those?
Right. Well, here's what I would basically say. This isn't a side issue, one side or the other. Certainly you see that with the Colorado Republican Party. That is not a group. Every Republican in Colorado is not speaking with the same voice. I would say the same thing for Democrats, but clearly with this Republican Party. It is a bad thing for everyone, not just sides, when a reporter, some reporters are allowed into a place and another one isn't. The more people who are covering an event, the more chances are you're going to be to get it right. So you might read a viewpoint on Heidi Ganahl's new website that's going to be different than what you're going to read where the other Heidi is writing, but somewhere in between you're going to come up with what really happened. So the more reporters, the better. Doesn't matter what side of the spectrum they're from, they should be there.
Patty Calhoun, editor of Westword. Reporters get it right sometimes, and then they get it wrong. In this sense, thinking that we're the best news talk radio program in Denver.
Big questions.
Oh, yeah.
we need more reporters here to figure that out. No, go ahead, Patty. What were you going to say?
Well, just don't prove us wrong.
Okay? We'll do our best.
You have created a challenge for us to keep this, which is oftentimes a bigger challenge than when it hit the first hit.
Yeah,
I have great respect for Westword. Please give my regards to Mike Roberts and his reporting. I have always felt comfortable being able to talk with him. And Patty, I said this at the beginning. I do not share that feeling about every reporter in the state of Colorado. I've had slander brought against me. I've had omission. I've had gotcha journalism where the article was already written and I had like 5 minutes to be able to respond to it. And then they just threw my quote into it. But with Westword and Mike Roberts and your leadership, I've always felt that Westword is fair to the people that they cover. So I think that plays out for the success that you're having. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that too. So sometimes reporters get it wrong. Sometimes our reporters get it wrong. But a media outlet should be willing to take the criticism and correct it when necessary.
That's right.
So just keep calling them to account.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you being on the program. Patty Calhoun,
cool.
editor at Westword. Go to westword.com. You can see their best of Denver list, which includes everything from where best to fill up air for your tires, where to get the best exorcism, and Jeff and Bill's the best talk radio program in Denver.
It's so cool to see that. That just, again, took me like 2 hours to wrap my head around that because I've been reading that since the 90s. And all of a sudden it's that weird thing of I've been reading the list and then you're on the list. That's weird. Really weird.
Hey, when it comes to creating the perfect kitchen or bathroom countertop, it's all about understanding the client's needs and personal style. That's why communication is key. Mitch Flores is the master craftsman with the Art of Granite and works with his team of highly skilled craftsmen, each with their own unique expertise to help bring your vision to life. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team at the Art of Granite will listen to you and get you what you need. Mitch provides granite, marble, quartz, and other materials from his own warehouse in Denver West at wholesale prices with no markup, so you can get the most for your budget. Mention KNUS and you can choose a free bathroom countertop or a free sink or a free backsplash with the purchase of your fantastic new kitchen countertops. Or get this. Get 15% off your entire project with the purchase of any countertop package. Schedule a consultation with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch at 303-386-5919, or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. That's theartofgranite.com. When we come back, you choose the news. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. American negotiators are set to leave Egypt today as media in the country report tentative progress on Gaza ceasefire talks. Israel is still insisting that the release of hostages held by Hamas must be a condition for any halt to fighting. The government is under pressure to secure more hostages, with thousands of protesters taking to the streets of Jerusalem on Sunday to call for their release, 6 months after they were taken prisoner by Hamas militants on October 7th. Meanwhile, Israel says it pulled troops out of southern Gaza over the weekend, citing tactical reasons, raising questions about its offensive in Rafah. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has, according to his campaign, raised more than $50 million in one night at a Florida fundraiser. Our Washington correspondent Jagrushi Dave reports.
Donald Trump has been courting big donors to try and bridge the funding gap between himself and Joe Biden. Biden's campaign said that he went into April with $192 million. That's compared to Donald Trump's $93.1 million. Donald Trump at this event gave a 45-minute speech to an audience of nearly 120 people, and some attendees reportedly paid up to $814,600 as donations.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
All right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's do You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people who have made really bad decisions this morning, and those of you with still broken radios, and that's why you're stuck here. We are obviously playing You Choose the News just a wee bit earlier. Why? We found out the people in charge are waking up earlier, and they asked some awkward questions. So we got to move it a little earlier to make sure they are still asleep. Alrighty, as you know, we scour the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really, really dumb headlines to put on stupid news stories to play this fake radio news game. Once again, because, well, it's fun and they don't know we're doing it. Alrighty, sir. Here are your choices this morning, and Blake Olson joining us from the news department. Headline number 1, the Looney Tunes inspiration. Headline number 2, come and get 'em. Headline number 3, aren't they already married? And headline number 4, master full preparation. All right,
let's do Looney Tunes. They've actually gotten really popular in our house again.
I love Looney Tunes. A Looney Tunes inspiration. Sometimes you got to reach into the cartoon world in order to make sure your crime goes as planned. That's recently what a man in Sacramento County found out. He watched his Ring doorbell and saw a porch pirate disguised as a bag of trash.
I saw that.
Steal his package. So the guy did the old Looney Tunes thing, put himself into a bag of trash, did the old squat waddle up to the door, put the package underneath the bag, and then waddled away. Yes, he only got away with $10. So the person involved said that it wasn't that big a deal. But again, said, I really can't blame him too much. I mean, at least it was fairly clever as leaning into it. So again.
It's like, so in Looney Tunes, it'd be like putting the barrel over you.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
With the barrel.
Exactly. So that was
looking up
funny.
the little hole in the barrel.
It's so funny. I'm like, okay, good. But again, it's I want to know that process that, I got an idea. What if I'm just a trash bag? You're like, what? Okay, fine. Alrighty, sir. Your second choice this morning. Come and get them. Aren't they already married, or master full preparation?
Aren't they already married?
Yeah, aren't they already married? That's a question I've got about this story. We are going to New York City, and specifically members of a Jewish community. There's a Jewish community in New York, Hasidic Jews, about 1,000 strong, and the women are very, very mad about the rules about marriage. So they have decided to take things into their own hand or even out of their own bed. They are going on a sex strike. They're saying no more loving.
That'll do it.
Yeah, it will. But the idea, guys, aren't they married? And the married people aren't having sex. Right. I'm married. I know how infrequently it happens in our house, and much to my wife's chagrin. It's mostly, but I'm just saying that you get busy with the kids and stuff. And they're just like, hey, I'm married. I'm not going to do any more of but that's kind of what happens afterwards.
So you're saying they're already on the strike,
Yes, exactly. I'm not sure this is taking away exactly. If it was something like dinner, then you got something.
I remember there was a movement. It was a year or two ago where liberal women were like, no, because abortion, we're going on.
Yeah. Like, good luck with
you're like, all right. Well, good luck.
Again, the idea is marriage. I'm like, I don't think the marriage people can go on the sex strike because, it's just saying. It's not as much as the girls in the club saying, I'm not going to go on a sex strike. That's a bigger deal. And I wouldn't know recently, but still, yeah. All righty. Blake is going to do our final choice this morning. Here we are, Blake. Choose carefully. Your choices are either come and get them or master full preparation.
Come and get them.
Yes, come and get them. Ever want to? Anybody here listening? You want a free goat? You can now have a free goat. You can, Blake, but you have to travel.
Nicole, turn off the radio station. Turn it off right now.
Free goats are available right now on a remote Italian island. The issue is,
you really got to turn it off. Oh, she's buying the plane tickets already.
There are 100 residents on this island, and they have a goat population that is wild. That's gotten to just about 100 goats. So the goats are about to win, and they're not happy with that. So they're saying anybody that can come to the island and catch a goat, you can take it home with you. I mean, it is talk about a wonderful souvenir. Most times when you come home, you've got, like a little button, or you've got a mug or a hat. You can come home with a goat. And
Bill, do you realize the combination of just Instagram worthy videos that could come out of this? You're getting on an airplane. Where's it? Italy?
Yeah, Italy.
So we're flying to Italy, and now you get to wrangle a goat.
Yes,
you put it in a dog carrier and fly it home. You have it for the rest of your life.
And it's in this little tiny remote Italian, island. So you're going to an
Bill,
island. You get to meet all
the people. People are going to be doing that
I'm just
now?
saying, if we had known about this, it could have been spring break for the Hunt household. I'm just,
What is the name of the island?
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, that is it. That is the end of You Choose the News today. As always, I am a big giant loser, but Jeff and Blake are your winners. But remember, You Choose the News is not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. They do not have anything to do with this frivolity, but they are a wonderful company that will come to your home and give you a free home estimate.
Hurricane force winds.
And everything is complicated and chaos in those cabinets in your in closets. It's shelving as far as kitchen. You're looking at the garage. They're going to make everything so easy to find. They're going to work it all out. They're working at the Hunt household. They can be in your household as well. RollEmOutShelves.com. But whatever you do not mention You Choose the News. They will charge you an extra 15%. I've heard that already. Alrighty, sir. That's it. We're done. Back to you.
Great conversation we just had with Patty Calhoun, editor of Westword. We did question their journalistic standards in naming the Jeff and Bill Show the #1 talk radio show in Denver, which we appreciated.
Yeah, we do.
We do. And it gave the station here a lot of energy and excitement. Sales teams high-fiving and all that good stuff. So
I know some of the sales team actually wave to me now. They don't do that. They don't. Normally they just walk by and shake their head.
That's the reason
I know
the conservatives won't advertise.
Yeah,
here.
and they're like, you know how hard it is to sell with your damn face in the air.
And we're covering the state assembly. I'd love to get calls or texts on the state assembly. Were you there? What did you think? I've been to a lot of them.
I'm happy they let you go at the end.
Yeah, right. Look, I'm everybody's friend in the Republican movement.
Are.
I think the only frustration they have with me is that I'm not as angry towards the people they're angry towards.
Yeah, I think it's that and you're nice to me. Those are the two things.
Right.
Those are the two things that seem to bother people a lot.
And we broadcasted live down there, and I had about 15 people with clenched fists come by wondering where Bill Thorpe was.
Certain. Yes, I know.
It was, look, it's hard to determine what was really affecting down there. I will tell you this. The group that was down there at this year's state assembly are all in for Donald Trump. I mean, it is Trump's party. It is Trump energy. Matt Gaetz did a great job firing up the crowd. Lauren Boebert, a lot of energy. You saw her success on Friday. It is Lauren Boebert, Dave Williams, Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump party right now.
Yeah, it is.
We'll see if Jeff Crank can, in some of those primaries, same with Lauren Boebert, appeal to broader audiences, right? This is a very narrow niche. This is the most core. This is the most dedicated. This is the people that, give their lives for this cause.
Yeah.
So does it have bigger appeal, broader appeal? We'll have to see, but that's where the energy is now. There were no real big statewide competitive races. So you didn't have the big teams. You didn't have the Mike Kopp versus Greg Brophy versus Bob Beaupre type of things, or the, U.S. Senate races, competitive Ron Hanks versus Joe Day, and everybody competing and giving speeches. So you didn't have any of those big statewide races. So I don't think it was as big as I've seen when we've had those big races. I don't think that's necessarily indication of Dave's leadership or anything like that, but people seem happy with Dave as chairman of the GOP down there among that core.
Yeah, it was nice for me to hear the excitement, and that was kind of cool, and lots of good conversations and people that are very fired up. And I do think that you need to have two functional political parties, because left to their own devices, either one will go off the rails. And we've seen here in Colorado how the Democrats have figured that the Republicans are such minority players, they then can entertain some of their more ridiculous ideas.
Yep.
And that's why we desperately need two functioning political parties to put guardrails on both sides. Yeah.
Yep. Very good point, Bill. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Were you down at the state assembly? What did you think of it? Are you happy with the results for National Committee Woman? That was a big race. We'll get into all of this and Joshua Sharf in the 7 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Mark Crowley coming into the studio with some breaking news. We got to get Mark mic up. All right, Mr. Crowley.
Yes, sir.
What are you holding in your hands?
Well,
there?
I'm holding this, but I think it's most important that I let people know that for the 5th year in a row, Chief Meteorologist Dave Frazier is the best meteorologist in the universe.
Nice.
Anyway,
that's
but
fantastic.
we attended the Colorado Broadcasters Association Awards of Excellence banquet over the weekend, and we were honored with the best use of digital and social media for our El Paso to Denver immigration crisis video.
That's
Wow.
great.
That's
Remind
wonderful.
people what
On
that
YouTube.
video was about.
That's where George Brockler, Stephen Tubbs, Deb Flora, myself, and a crew of thousands went to El Paso during mid-February last year, and we created a little mini documentary focusing on the immigration crisis. And I think we went a year early.
Well, you guys were just ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
quite
on
a
that
bit
one.
different today, but it was a great week that we spent down there, and came away with a lot of great insights about what's happening down there and how it's impacting Colorado. And so we submitted that for this award this year and walked away with it.
And
So
where can people watch that?
it is on the 710 KNUS YouTube channel, and I think it's called El Paso to Denver or something. I don't remember the exact title, but it is there. It's about 24 minutes long, and details everything we did down there. So
Inside on the border crisis, which is going to be
Yep.
the top issue. Abortion is going to be up there too after
Yeah.
today's announcement with Donald Trump, or maybe not. We'll have to get into all that in the next hour. But congratulations, Mark. Congratulations,
Yeah, thank you.
KNUS. That's a big deal. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
from the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver. It's Monday, April 8th. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS, the award-winning 710 KNUS, not only from Westword as the top talk show in Denver, but from the Colorado Broadcasters Association for our coverage down at the border.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel kind of like Pinocchio. I'm a real boy. I'm a real boy. A real radio station. We're winning some awards and stuff. Everybody is. This is fantastic. Nice.
You know, George left a comment on my Facebook page about this. He would like a little bit of credit for this.
Oh.
Jorge.
Yeah, no.
We all just laugh. George. By the way, we got to get that debate going.
Yeah, we do.
Between him and Dagna in studio. That'll be fun.
I'm sad that the legal department nixed my American Gladiators idea where we do some debate topics and then they fight with the giant Q-tips just for like a 3-minute round. I just get them. They said legally we can't do that. So fine.
Well, I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's another day in the beautiful city of Denver, and we're gearing up for a whole hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We asked for folks that were down at the State Assembly to call in, and we didn't get any. I think they're still asleep. They haven't recovered from that.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is so long.
So Bill and I were sitting down there, and we're doing a live broadcast, and this guy comes by, and he goes, hey, I'm part of the teller team. And we're like, all right, sit down. He goes, you know we're hand counting all the ballots? And
like, what?
Bill and I just stopped and went, wait, what?
Yeah, wait.
All of them?
Yeah.
And I still don't know. I haven't gotten a text. I think they're all still asleep. Joan from Lakewood, give me your texting, but what time did you get the results?
Yeah, and the guy, and it was great. It was a great conversation about the county, but he had all these layers where we're going to take him from here, these ballots, and they're going to go to this group, and this group's going to count 25 group, and they're going to go to this group and this. I'm like,
it was so complicated.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, this is going to take a long time. That's okay.
So there's got to be a way.
Yeah.
To be able to count with computers, but just people feel more secure about it.
Well, and
I don't think you can just dismiss the conservative concern about it. But
the issue that I have is, and I understand the idea that the conservatives have concern about it. The issue I've got is, show me that it's happening on a wide scale basis, and that's the problem I have. Is I come to this as, and I feel that a lot of the unaffiliateds feel like myself that we're not saying that even Colorado is the gold standard for elections. But if we are going to talk about election integrity, we're going to have a deeper conversation to convince many of us that there is an issue with it. We all understand that things can happen, but just because they can doesn't mean they are, have, or will. And the conversations keep centering around this, in my opinion, the assumption that something is happening or has happened in order to invalidate the elections. And that's what I think the difficulty that the unaffiliated like myself have, and many of the Democrats, is there's this assumption of fraud, and it's large enough to swing an election.
And Bill, to your point, right after this last election, do you remember all the crap that was thrown out there? Like we have clear evidence that servers in Spain have connected to our election.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa.
Oh, in the first 24 hours.
Really?
Yeah, in the first 24 hours, it was a server in Germany.
In Germany.
And the U.S. military was supposed to be seizing the server from the town. And the town didn't have an office for the business that was supposed to have the server. That's how bad that story was.
Dude,
that they said this company has the server there, and they're changing our elections, and the company didn't have an office building there. I mean, come on.
And so the conservatives did themselves a real disservice in the argument for making sure our elections are tight and fair and because ultimately that's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
But when you ran out there with all of these crazy accusations, and me being, a grassroots conservative going, oh, wow, okay, I'm interested to see where this goes, right? My filter wasn't initial like, oh, they're full of crap.
Yeah.
No, it was, oh, okay. What is this? And then you watched, and we're going to release the Kraken.
Yeah.
And we're 4 years later into this.
Yeah.
And not a lot of it turned out.
No,
And this is where you and I have a disagreement. And I've done a lot of thinking about this with Molly Hemingway. It's the difference between believing and this are Molly Hemingway's words. So I'm going to use hers. An election is fraudulent or an election is corrupt. Okay.
Yeah.
So in fraudulent, you have the ballot replacement, right? The adjustment of the score. Corrupt is the concern over social media limitation on free speech and those types of things. Was it really a free and fair election if social media companies are restricting particular stories? So, but I just think conservatives did a real disservice to themselves by jumping to all these crazy conspiracy theories that never played out.
Yeah. And the biggest linchpin is the idea that all these theories that they glommed onto was they fell apart fairly quickly. And the conservatives have an argument about things like voter rolls and cleaning up voter rolls and dead voters on the rolls. And figuring out if people are registered in 2 different states or 3 different states or 3 different counties. That's a big deal. But then again, I feel that the conservatives decided to fillet themselves in public on purpose by then withdrawing from systems like ERIC. And you're like, but ERIC helps you coordinate who's registered in other states, but they didn't like it anymore. So now they pull out and now they can't. So the thing that they thought was bad, they don't have the ability to check. I'm like, why would you do that? That's like saying, I don't agree with the local fire department. I'm mad at the local fire department. And so I'm going to disconnect the fire hydrant in front of my house. If your house catches on fire, you're going to have a problem here.
Well, we saw that
solving the problem
in the state assembly over the weekend where they're like, all right, we are done with computer counting.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the 500-step system that we have now developed that's going to take 15 hours to count.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, that's where we ended up.
Yeah. And I have an issue with the idea when people just say, no, we can't get the computers involved because the computers are obviously, they're going to change things and do bad things for us and everything else. And okay, but I'm pretty certain that 99% of you do digital banking. Right. And you're letting this big company take their computer counting system and telling you how much of the money you have. Again, not a perfect system, but you lean into allowing these computer counts all the time with things that are very important in your lives. But this one, somehow it's invalid. It's just weird.
Joan just sending over the count on the
good.
On the National Committee woman, which I appreciate because I can't find it. Here's another critique I had over the weekend is I don't think it was live streamed. There were live tweeting. When I worked for the state party, we did a lot of that stuff. So, it was just hard to get the stats. Christy Fedora winning bigly. So there were 1,900 votes. Vera Ortegon got 241. Laurel Eimer got 630. And Christy Fedora got over 1,100. This was a big deal. I didn't know Christy. I didn't know if she was going to be that competitive of a candidate. I never heard from her. I heard from Vera. I heard from Laurel. And I thought it was a race between those two. And then Christy came through and won. Why is this important? Because Laurel Eimer was clearly in the kind of Trump category. Vera, supportive of President Trump, but definitely supported by the traditional Republican, right? So she finished last. Laurel Eimer finished second, but then nearly doubling, at least Laurel Eimer, was Christy Fedora with 1,100 votes. So she's the new National Committee woman. We'll have to get some details on that race.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I find it interesting that was the one where there was the most friction and the most interest, the idea of just who's going to be a representative to the National Committee.
Yeah.
And you're like, that would seem to be the most innocuous. mean, if we were gonna vote the dog in, a dog could probably do that job. I just, I'd be more questionable about the other jobs. But okay.
And in part that's because we had no statewide races. So
that's true.
That did become the big one. All right, let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. 33 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s. The solar eclipse starts at 11:28 this morning, so don't look up unless you have those special viewing
the
glasses.
President of the United States.
Yeah, good point.
I still love that picture, by the way, when he looks up and
yes,
he doesn't have the glasses on.
Classic. Don't use regular sunglasses and don't be like the President of the United States. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
I think we had hurricane force winds. You couldn't sleep.
Wild weekend of wind damage in Colorado. More than 64,000 Coloradans lost power and about 55,000 waking up to no power this morning after those windstorms knocked down trees and power lines early Sunday morning. 1 second, because we have a little electrical problem right here. Let me see if I can get this thing rolling here, because this was a big story yesterday.
Let's go ahead and declare an emergency. We've got a piece of the engine cowling hanging off, apparently.
It's typically due to a failure of maintenance personnel to properly secure the engine. These small incidents occur, but they're rarely catastrophic.
Jeff Guzzetti, former FAA investigator, passengers on a Southwest flight from DIA Sunday experienced a scary takeoff. A part fell off the plane and hit the wing flap. It had to return to DIA. Emergency landing. No one was injured. The plane is a Boeing 737-800, and it's under investigation. If you're on I-70 this morning between Denver and Aurora, you'll see dynamic tolling in the express lane. This 10-mile stretch is the first to use this real-time pricing model. The cost will change based on the traffic conditions. It'll range from $1.50 to $5.50. Glendale police looking for an Hispanic female, 20 to 25 years old, with a possible hoop ring in her right nostril. She's one of 3 suspects in the murder of 20-year-old Gianni Fernandez, who was killed in his apartment on Friday. Former President Trump says abortions should be left up to the states to decide. And Trump raises $50 million over the weekend. President Biden in Wisconsin today announcing a new student loan forgiveness program. The Supreme Court stopped his previous attempt. It's 27 in Arvada, 30 in Englewood, 33 in Denver. South Carolina beats Caitlin Clark and Iowa in the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship. Clark and South Carolina head coach Don Staley.
After last year, I was kind of like, well, how do we top doing what we did last year? And somehow, some way, every single person in our locker room believed. And to be honest, this year was probably more special than last year.
So excited to share this moment with our team. They are incredible human beings and young people who trusted.
That's Staley's 3rd championship as a head coach. Tonight, the men's championship, Purdue and UConn. Rockies take on the D-backs tonight at Coors Field. If you want to get out there at 6:40, they have won 2 games trying to get back in the win column. Congrats to Mark Crowley and Jeff and Bill. Of course, Denver's best radio talk show, honored by Westword. They continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
7-10 5-day forecast, a high wind watch Saturday morning through Sunday morning. Partly cloudy today, windy and warm. We're going to be well into the 70s. South winds today, 15 to 30 gusts to 45 miles an hour. Windy tonight, a low near 40. Areas of rain and snow showers Saturday morning. Colder, 40s and 50s, then very, very windy. Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into Sunday, windy, colder through that whole period with showers possible. I'm meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It was about 6 months ago. Can you believe that? 6 months ago that the attack by Hamas in Israel took place. Joining us on the VIP line is Joshua Sharf from the Independence Institute, who has been in Israel since, has been supporting Israel through this war in a kind of civilian capacity. He's not actually on the front lines throwing bullets the other direction. But Joshua, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I was afraid that, because I had been interviewed for the Colorado Sun at some point in the past, maybe I had been PNG.
Hey, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that?
Oh, good Lord. I mean, the only disappointment, not the only disappointment, I guess the great disappointment is that Matt Getz didn't pull the signature move and move to vacate the chair. I just,
That's good.
What a clown show. I just from those, I mean, it's fun, I suppose, sometimes to bring in people from out of state, but I could think of better people. And then this business with Sandra Fish, I mean, I would, and I posted this on Facebook, I would not have blocked, if I'm party chair, and this, by the way, is not a campaign announcement. If I'm party chair, I don't stop the daily worker from coming in. Mm-hmm. I mean, their job is to cover you can set boundaries. You can say, well, here, let's not interfere with the tellers. Let's not do that. You can, well, you can go here, but if you're in this particular spot, you're going to be in the way of the delegates when they're doing things, so maybe this is a better place for you to, you can sort of get them out of the way and from interfering, which they probably don't really want to do anyway, and allow them to do their job, and you can do yours. And this business with taking it personally, that Fish had called him out or written about anyway, him using party resources to run his congressional campaign, and so he's going to take it out on her. It just shows it validates all of the complaints, doesn't it? So
here, so I'll take a little bit of a different perspective because I've been in a role where I have prevented the press from coming in to the Western Conservative Summit, and I'll give you.
Well, that's different. But that's different. That's different.
So you're right. It is different in the sense that it's a private gathering that's not related to electing anybody or the creation of law or anything like that. But here was the reason why. I mean, it started with Samantha Bee. So in 2016, we allowed everybody in, right? And I kind of had that mindset, like we're fully available for anybody to come and be a part of this. We want them to see conservative thought and to be a part of the conversation. And what Samantha Bee did in 16 was just mock our attendees. So she would walk around and film and then cut the film to basically look like our people were, in her mind, dopes, not smart. They couldn't answer the questions. It was manufactured, and it wasn't fair at all. And so the next year when they wanted to come back, I specifically banned them. And then over the years, Denver Post and Channel 9 in particular, I would read their coverage after they were there, and I would go, what event were they at? This is bizarre. You had facts that were wrong. You had a skewing of the story. And so by, I'd say 18 or 19, I felt like I was inviting somebody into my house to take a crap on the floor. I just didn't, I didn't get the point of it anymore. I'd rather have the Denver Post not write about us at all than write factually wrong things, and then drive an agenda about our attendees, about what we were trying to do. And I could go, and I had so many other avenues. I could partner with Breitbart. I could partner with Western Journal that were fair in our coverage. I didn't need somebody to write glowing reviews about how wonderful the whole thing was. I just got tired of people crapping in my house and writing just wrong things. And so I was a little sympathetic to Dave, going, I don't want them there. If all you're going to do, and maybe the Sun's different, but he obviously felt differently about this, but if all you're going to come in and do is write unfair, untrue, slanted articles about us, I don't need you there. What do you think of that?
So I think that's fair for something like the Western Conservative Summit. And certainly in the case of without dealing with the question of Channel 9 or the Denver Post, which are different, that there you have to weigh the value of publicity versus the versus the negative value of bad publicity.
Right.
And certainly with Samantha Bee in the case you cited, that's sort of how that's a with a Jon Stewart sort of a thing, right?
Yeah, right.
You go on the Daily Show and then you expect the interview is going to be the interview, and then they cut it to make they would deliberately cut it to make conservatives look stupid. And so to have her in a second time, certainly the first time I say, oh, okay, fine, you're going to do what you're going to do. And the second time, why, you're right, but the obligations there were a little different. Here you have what really is a public event, and it's and if all Fish did was write about how Williams was using party resources to fund his congressional campaign or to promote his congressional campaign, then that's his problem. And that's not the party's problem. Well, it is in the sense that they elected him, but that's his problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's going to get upset over that and therefore keep we all understand it's center left, but it's not crazy left organization from showing up and writing about what is a state party assembly, the purpose of which is, in this case, the main business was electing delegates who are already committed to Trump and electing for national convention and electing the national committee woman. Those are the two main, and then I guess the resolutions. But that's the main business. If he can't tolerate having somebody in who wrote something about at the state party function, and that's irresponsible, and it's a disservice to the party.
Talking with Joshua Sharf of the Independence Institute. Joshua, I want to shift a little bit here to Israel. It's been 6 months. 6 months into this war. I came across this quote from Bill Clinton this was from back in 2016, about how hard he tried to get peace into the Middle East.
Depends on whether you care what happens to the Palestinians as opposed to the Hamas government and the people with guided missiles. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. No, wait a minute. Yes, they were. And Hamas is really smart. When they decide to rocket Israel, they insinuate themselves in the hospitals, in the schools, in the highly populous areas, and they are smart. So they try. So they wait. They try to put the Israelis in a position of either not defending themselves or killing innocents. They're good at it. They're smart. They've been doing this a long time. Look, I don't agree. I killed myself to give the Palestinians a state. I had a deal they turned down that would have given them all of Gaza, all of Gaza, between 96 and 97% of the West Bank, compensating land in Israel.
I would have killed myself trying to give the Palestinians a state, and they wouldn't accept it. Joshua Sharf, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, of course, he's going back to 2000 and the negotiations that were going on there right at the end of his second term, and Madeleine Albright, sort of chasing down Yasser Arafat, and as Arafat is going to walk out of the negotiations, and therefore, of course, surrendering all of her leverage, and then Arafat given, and this is understood. I mean, Dennis Ross, who is right winger, essentially corroborates this and says that Arafat, faced with the problem of getting what he wanted, decided instead to go home and start the second Intifada, and that's what he did. And so, a lot of the current problems stem from that. And by the way, that's that whole deal in many ways a very bitter. I mean, I think Ehud Barak was the prime minister at the time, the Israeli prime minister at the time, and that would have been a very difficult pill for a lot of Israelis to swallow, and yet that was the deal that he had managed to reach, and it was still unacceptable. And at that point, when Arafat goes home, starts a terrorist war, and forces Israel to respond. That point was where a lot of liberal, not quite leftist, but liberal and left of center Israelis gave up and said, "Listen, we don't have anyone there that we can talk to." And when Arafat dies and Abbas shows up, there's some, obviously a change of person. Maybe this will be a little different, but substantively things don't really change. And I think most Israelis at that point have simply said, "Look, we're willing to try the disengagement," which is, again, as someone at the time wrote, and I don't remember who it was, said this was not so much giving in to the Palestinians as giving up on the Palestinians. So listen, we will put the wall where we want to put it. We will put the border where we want to put it. You do whatever you want on your side of it, but you're not going to bother us anymore. And that was Ariel Sharon's plan, and he of course died before he was able to finish implementing that. Whether or not it would have worked, I don't know. Nobody knows, because it never got fully implemented. But the withdrawal from Gaza, which was broadly supported at the time, although again not universally so, there should have been a little warning signal, because the Israelis left behind intact settlements. They left behind intact infrastructure that could have been used, and it was rapidly destroyed and not used. And so there was and things have sort of slid downhill from there. I think there's a lot of room to criticize, and certainly the Israelis are not loath to do that. There's a lot of room to criticize Netanyahu's approach of not completely destroying Hamas, just sort of what the term mowing the grass. When things got too bad, you go in and you mow the grass and you calm them down and stop it for a while. Allowed Hamas to metastasize to the point where they could carry out this attack, and then, like you say, 6 months later, it's we can take a little bit of stock of not only how we got here, but how we got to October 7th itself, and it's clear that there was a, we call it strategic lethargy, but I think that it's not quite like France and the Maginot Line, but it's a sense that because it worked yesterday, it'll work tomorrow. And they ignored certain warning signs and ignored certain intelligence tip-offs that they were given that things were headed their way, and we ended up with the disaster that was October 7th.
Talking with Joshua Sharf of the Independence Institute. So the news today was that Israel scales back troop presence in Gaza. What's that all about?
Yeah, so there's a tendency, I think, for people to link events with sort of yesterday's headline and assume that today's headline is a direct result of yesterday's headline. And the administration, of course, at the end of last week, Biden sort of called for an immediate ceasefire, and and certainly Hamas has been arguing that the only way that they come to terms is if Israel leaves Gaza entirely and the civilians are free to return, which in effect means Hamas is free to rebuild itself and reconstitute itself. The defense minister Gallant has said that this is really a pullback where where the division, in this case it's the 98th Division, will stay strike within like an hour's ability to strike wherever they want to go. They can operate with it. So using the recent operation at Al Shifa Hospital as an example, where if there's intelligence that some the Hamas or Islamic Jihad or whoever is beginning to sort of coalesce again and rebuild something, they can move in and break that up. What they won't be doing is sitting as a target as a stationary target in the middle of Gaza. I don't know. I'm not in a position to judge that. However, they did make it clear that this is a refit and if not exactly R&R, but it's a refit or maintenance of weapons and preparation to go into Rafah. So this is not, they're not giving up on the Rafah operation, and they're not, it's not really a retreat in the sense of giving back operational space.
Talking with, go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know enough to be able to judge whether or not that makes sense. My own personal sense, I mean, I can see where pulling out, has risks as well.
Right.
So, yeah, but I assume the Israelis are aware of those. So.
Talking with Joshua Sharf of the Independence Institute. It's been 6 months since that attack that took place, Hamas attacking innocent civilians in Israel. Joshua, Iran. Let's talk about Iran and how this all fits together. There's been attacks on Iranian embassies by Israel. Where's this all going to go? Why is Iran in the mix here?
Yeah, so Iran, of course, is the mastermind behind all of this. Hamas is their client, Hezbollah is their client, the Houthis that are disrupting world shipping, apparently with our inability to stop that or unwillingness to do what it takes to stop. The address there for all of this is Tehran. And in last week, I guess it was Monday of last week, so it's a week ago, Israel got news that there were some Iranian generals meeting at the Iranian, the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps generals meeting in the Iranian consulate, I guess it was, in Damascus, or the Iranian embassy complex in Damascus, and bombed the place and killed a couple of them. Now, this was not Israel just sort of, well, let's go kill a couple of random Iranian generals. Apparently, one of the guys who was there was later, it was in his sort of unofficial newspaper obituary, the state-affiliated media in Iran reported that he was one of the guys who was the architect of the October 7th attacks. So there's a reason they killed this guy. And it wasn't sort of a random military operation. There was a reason that they got this guy. The Iranians, of all people, to complain about the inviolability of diplomatic facilities is the definition of chutzpah. I mean, and they started their regime by holding 50 of our diplomats hostage for over a year, and they bombed our U.S. facilities in Beirut. They have bombed U.S. facilities in, there were, of course, with the Israeli embassy bombing in Buenos Aires. There are any number of diplomatic facilities that the Iranians have gone after in the past. So the idea that somehow they get to complain that there was some violation of international law by going after a diplomatic facility is ludicrous. However, they're going to use it as an opportunity to respond, and we will see what they do.
Yeah, what do you think, Joshua? What do you think that response is going to be? Because I believe that it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I feel the Iranians in the Arab world have to respond, or they're going to feel like they have lost some standing. And so the question I've got, is it going to be a response directed only at Israel? Is it going to be a response that may include Israel and the United States? And the one that scares me the most, is it or could it be a response that would be inside the borders of Israel?
Yeah, the answer is nobody really knows. The Iranians, there's a lot of stuff. There are reports of a lot of equipment moving around. There are reports that the leadership has sort of headed for the underground bunkers, which would indicate that they would expect an answer. It's really, I hate this makes, I realize not making a prediction makes for terrible radio, but the fact is you simply don't know what's misdirection and what's real. And they're in no hurry. They don't need to do this today or tomorrow or the day after. They can set up what they want to set up and respond to political changes on the ground. Certainly, the more that they at least appear to be doing, the more the U.S. will apply pressure to Israel during the hostage/ceasefire negotiations, because it's clear that the U.S. doesn't want to be forced to respond. But at the same time, do they do enough that they can say they did something? Do they do enough that if the U.S. is as appears to be the case right now, today, currently in the business of keeping Hamas from being destroyed, well, that's a strategic victory for Iran. If Hamas is destroyed, that's a strategic disaster for Iran because it shows weakness on the part of the mullahs. So do you want to get in the way of that? Do you want to do something that's so bad that then you get in the way of the U.S., which is basically on your side right now? So who knows?
Talking with Joshua Sharf of the Independence Institute on the 6-month anniversary of the attack by Hamas in Israel. Joshua, we've got to wrap up here. What do we need to be looking at? How do we need to be praying?
Not the sun.
Yeah, right. How do we continue to watch this? How do we continue to pray for the people of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem?
Everyone, of course, is free to pray in his own way. What we can do, I mean, if you want to do something, of course, there are organizations to give to. Magen David Adom is good. Friends at the IDF is good. Or go to, if you like artwork, buy something from there. If you're planning on visiting, go visit. It's safe to go visit. I was there never felt threatened. There are places. There are economic ways of supporting. Give to the JNF. That's a great Jewish National Front. It's a great organization. And so there are ways to contribute. There are ways to as you say, personally to pray, or even communally pray and hope for God to intercede in some fashion. And we can do what we can do here, and we can, of course, write letters to or even just send emails to the congressmen and senators and the White House. They count those things, and they do pay attention to them. So
stand with our Jewish friends. Stand against the anti-Semitism that's taking place on college campuses and among some political parties here in Colorado. Joshua Sharf, I appreciate you so much being on the show. Thank you for giving us an update on Israel. And we're going to continue to pray for the peace. And Joshua just gave you a number of great organizations to support. Look, Hamas has got to be wiped out. I know it's hard to wipe out an ideology, but we cannot continue to allow Hamas to do what they're doing. When you see the results of what they do to innocent Israelis, it's heartbreaking. And Joshua, thank you for fighting the good fight.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you so much for your steadfast, unwavering, and vocal support.
You bet. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeff Hunt here for my friends at Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggested you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplis is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Phone lines are almost full. Dwayne and Jane, we're going to get to you in just a second. Give us a call if you'd like to talk about this, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. Russia's nuclear power corporation Rosatom accused Ukraine's military of carrying out drone attacks against the Russian-held Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The International Atomic Energy Agency said there had been 3 direct hits. Megumi Lim reports from Kyiv.
According to a statement by Rosatom, the first strike hit an area near the station's canteen, injuring 3 staff members. And within half an hour, it said a drone attacked a cargo landing area and that another drone struck the dome of the plant's 6th power unit. Ukraine has denied any involvement in the attacks and suggested that the Russians were behind the strikes against the power plant. The IAEA, which has experts on site, said the damage had not compromised nuclear safety, but called the attacks a serious incident with a potential to undermine the integrity of the reactor's containment system.
Donald Trump is expected to unveil his abortion policy on Monday. In a post on his social media platform, Truth Social, the former president argued for a more moderate approach amid a crackdown on abortion rights in many states. The Republican candidate suggested that under his presidency, he would ensure abortion was accessible in cases of rape, incest, or where a mother's life is at risk. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
All right, let's go to the phone line here. Dwayne and Divide, you're on the Jeff and Joe Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, gentlemen. Congratulations on the Westword, by the way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
means a lot. Of course, then again, I was a major contribution to your show, so maybe I should be getting a $5 token from you guys.
I think so.
Just an aside.
Hey, if you show up at Black Eyed Pea, I'll find an egg or something for you, hard boiled egg or hash browns or something. I'll find something for you. I might have to take it from I might have to take it from somebody else. Because it's just I'm going to do the liberal thing. We're going to redistribute the wealth. But I'm just saying I'll hook you up.
Well, it's a thought, gentlemen, but I got
an
infusion on the day you guys are going, so I'll have to sit there and delay to another time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's no problem. It's part of life. One thing we do have to realize, though, is that why is an AST or a SEAL team going in and getting our Americans out of there? Can anybody explain that to me?
That's a good point.
Getting America. I'm sorry.
Israel hostages. We still got some Americans, and I agree that. And where Dwayne I think is going with is that in all the hostages that were taken, the most valuable chips are the Americans. Yeah. We're the number one dog. The ones that they have were the most valuable, so we're the ones they're going to hang on to the longest. And Dwayne's got a great point about why we're not sending some sort of special forces in there since they have the hostages, especially because you'd assume it's a terrorist group that has got them. It's not a Sunday school class, so yeah, why not? It's a good question.
Okay, question two.
Why do you think, Dwayne, just personally you, why do you think we're not doing it? What do you think?
Spinelessness.
Yeah. Okay. I can agree with that. Okay. Yeah, I can get that. Yeah.
444 days. And it took a bunch of guys in the CIA to sit there and make a stupid movie company to sit there and get them out. A bunch of Canadians. Okay?
Nice job.
And my anger is there. We did not start the fire. We did not start the fire.
Yep.
But we need to bring our people out. If they need somebody to sit there and bring some stuff around here with a couple of 18s, why not get an F-22? Come across real nice and slow. Let them feel what that burn's going to be like, because we'll sit there and send them right on off to their jihad area. But I'm sickened and tired that we are not saying, excuse me, we understand you got this little brouhaha going on with the people across the street. Get our people out. Give us our people, and we're going to help you. But right now, he's playing both sides of the street. The spokesman for the Defense Department is an absolute waste of humanity at this point, because it's like, well, if they don't follow our direction with Israel, we're not going to help them. Look, the Israelis have a right to defend themselves. Come into my house, I promise you'll be French kissing Satan by the time I'm finished with you. Okay? Bottom line, do not mess with my family. Do not mess in my house.
Good.
But somebody sitting there cutting them off at the knees and saying to the Israelis they can't do that, get our hostages out and let them go play with each other and do what they want to do. I support the Israelis turning the entire part of that country into a sheet of glass if they need to. Dwayne, why are we not standing up for our people?
Real quick here, you were at the assembly. What did you think? The Republican assembly.
Well, heck, I had a blast of a time. Little guy and I were walking around wearing American flag shirts, and nobody noticed us. I was so happy about that. It's an exciting time. I did see some bad press about Lauren Boebert and President Trump. I don't know if that's true or not. But you guys might want to shake the tree on that one.
About the drinking?
Apparently she was having way too much fun. And I was sitting there going, and of course I'm in the wrong place. It's like I'm waiting for my ship to come in, and there's an airplane coming through with Lauren Boebert in a pair of high heels going, why, hello, young man. How are you doing? But no, Uncle Dwayne's not getting any of that, is he? But seriously, guys, on all things, get our people out of there. Get an ASS team. Get a SEAL team. I don't care what it takes. Show some spine, because 444 days of sitting in a room and nothing was done until all of a sudden, excuse me, guys, did you see this? We got a cowboy coming in. Poof, everything was handled.
That's right. Dwayne from Divide, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it. Dwayne's line will be open 303-696-1971. Do you have a high school student considering their college plans? Are they ready to discover more about their gifts and talents? Do you hope to see them become part of the next generation of Christian leaders? Your student is invited to Colorado Christian University's Discovery Preview. This week-long event is completely free. Discovery Preview is designed for students who desire to seek God's purpose and calling in their lives. Students are immersed in the community, culture, and mission of CCU. Workshops focused on calling, career, and Christ-centered leadership help them explore their unique strengths and potential career options. Then, They take the students on a Colorado adventure to experience the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. Eligible students can also qualify for a $1,250 annual scholarship just for attending. Don't miss Discovery Preview this summer, June 17th through the 21st. The event is designed for seniors and juniors in high school and is, again, absolutely free. To learn more, go to ccu.edu/discovery. That's ccu.edu/discovery. Jay, you'll be up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Yeah, Brandon Tatum is right. Next Friday, not this Friday, but the 19th, we're going to be hanging out with Brandon Tatum at the Black Eyed Peas, 6 to 10.
They're putting us in public. That's a bad idea. That's a really bad idea.
I like the public. By the way, I'm going to try to...
The public likes you. That's the thing. Public's real iffy on me. You understand this here. I may deserve it, but yes.
Let's go to Jay and Sterling. Jay, we got about a minute and a half. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
You cracked me up, guys. Hey, if you can't save your own home, who are you to go protect somebody else's house? And I'm talking about our country to their country. So Israel? Does that make any I'm trying to simple it up. Why are we not saving our own country from whatever's going on with the border or whatnot? Yeah. And now we're over there in another country. Yeah.
Trying to tell them.
If you practice what you preach.
Yeah.
Practice what you preach. If you can't save and protect your own place, who are you to tell somebody else that, oh, okay. I mean, help me. I mean, I'm trying to make a stupid analogy.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it, but I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I would hope that America has enough both political capacity, but also intellectual capacity and just basic capital that we could find a way to protect our own borders and help our allies elsewhere. I would hope that we are at least refined, that we are, at least can manage both those things at the same time. I would hate to think that as a country, we could only handle one.
But if we solve our problem first, which we haven't been able to do, that's what I'm saying. We haven't been able to do it for years.
Point.
So if we haven't solved our problem, how, once we solve
Jay,
our
you got a point. That's right. Jay from Sterling, his line will be open. Friends, we'll continue the conversation. Matt Arnold coming up next on the FEC complaint against Dave Williams. Is it legitimate? Stick around. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver. If you woke up, you were given another day by God to go out there and make a difference. Congratulations. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and loony. Another beautiful day in Denver, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and your calls, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get your coffee brewing, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here and right now. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. I want to talk a little bit about the Laurel Eimer race that took place over the weekend. So there were no big statewide races. You had typically you have a U.S. Senate primary, or you have a gubernatorial primary where Republicans down at the state assembly will be battling over who will get the nomination from the most faithful, committed Republicans. And there weren't any. And this year, the big battle was over national committee woman. And Laurel Eimer was generally seen as kind of the most grassroots connected with Donald Trump. Vera Ortegon was more of a traditional Republican, a lot of the kind of Cherry Hills Republicans around her. And then you had somebody else down there that ended up winning it. And I'm trying to pull up the notes here because I didn't really know who she was. Joan from Lakewood sent over the text. We've had so many text messages. I've got to dig through to find Joan.
Yeah, I'm not having long conversations with people.
There you go. Okay. So
I am. We're having so many other conversations with people. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh gosh. Joan from Lakewood had the numbers up here. And then you two got in a fight over whether or not you called a woman a dog. I'm not going to get it. All right. So Vera Ortegon, 241. So Vera Ortegon, a traditional Republican candidate, finished third place, 241. Laurel Eimer, kind of I would say, grassroots, more Trumpy candidate, 630. And then Christy Fedora, 1,100. So a total cast of 2,000. Christy ending up with more than 50% of that. I'm a little stunned. I mean, Vera Ortegon won easily. She served in the past 8 years, traditional kind of Republican candidate, not hostile to Donald Trump. But when I was down there, Bill, it was very clear to me, and I talked to my wife after this.
Yeah.
This was Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz, Dave Williams, Lauren Boebert's party. Easily. You could see the energy.
Really? Okay.
You could see the passion. Matt Gaetz, standing ovations, people behind him, supporting him. And I've been down there to those events when Mike Kopp went top line, Bill Armstrong spoke on the main stage, Hank Brown was up there.
Now, do you think that's a positive or a negative thing for the GOP in Colorado that is so wedded to Trump?
I don't think that's not what concerns me. I don't mind them being wedded to Trump.
I'm just wondering if it's going to be a positive or negative going in the future. Yeah, how that's going to work out.
Yeah, look, I'm a big Donald Trump fan. I think he's going to win. I hope he wins. I think the country's going to be better with him in office. That's not my concern. I guess my concern is over the fact that I just don't see those guys down there anymore. Wayne Williams was kind of in the corner. Didn't really, wasn't a crowd favorite. Didn't really engage too much, at least from what I saw. And I've expressed this frustration before when you ask kind of the traditional Republicans what the problem is, and they go, "It's Dave Williams."
Yeah.
And you ask the Dave Williams crowd what the problem is, it goes, "It's the rhinos."
Yeah, and which they mean the traditional Republicans.
The traditional
Republicans. That's what they're really using
exactly.
that name for. Yeah.
And I just go, it feels like you're hanging out with your friends and a good portion of your friends are missing.
Yeah. And they sit there and they say that your other group of friends are the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've all had that instance where you've had one friend or a group of friends and there's a schism.
Yes.
And the two sides don't want to hang out with each other and all they do is they badmouth each other.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Exactly.
Yep.
Do I agree with everything that traditional Republicans do or say? Is it a fair critique that, look, they tend to be willing to jump and work with Democrats too much? Yeah, I think that's a fair critique. Is it a fair critique that the Donald Trump wing of the party has alienated that, and they're too MAGA and they're too on the nose and they fight too hard? Yeah, that's maybe a critique. But I guess when I walked away, I went, I'm glad that the faithful down there were fired up about Donald Trump. There's a lot of energy and excitement and willingness to go out there and fight. But I've been in this game long enough to go, man, I sure miss those traditional Republicans being engaged down there.
Yeah, it is a different crowd. Yeah.
Give us a call if you were down there, especially what you thought. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Late last week, Kelly Maher filed an FEC complaint against chairman of the GOP, Dave Williams, and essentially arguing that, one, he's been using party resources to support his own private run for CD5, and that's a conflict of interest, and it shouldn't be happening, and it needs to be reported. So it was a reported complaint. The second complaint was that the state party has likely spent more money than they're allowed to legally to support a primary candidate. And so that's a problem as well. Now, this is just a complaint. It's been submitted to the FEC. The FEC will have to now do an investigation. And this is what I asked you all last week about this. Is it an honest, fair complaint against the chairman of the GOP here in Colorado? Are the merits right on this? Or is this just a big distraction? And Kelly, if she didn't like the state party GOP, she should have waited till it's time to replace him. She could have gotten involved. The people that don't like Dave Williams can get involved and find somebody that they do like. And the reason I bring this up is in 2017, Bob Beaupre was faced with an FEC complaint, had to pay $17,000. And that came from within the party itself, from Matt Arnold. And Matt's a friend, so I asked Matt to take a look at the FEC filings and give me his take. Is this fair? Is this right? You've challenged another Republican, not just Bob Beaupre, but Ryan Call as well, with these charges. And is this fair game, or is this just politics? We're going to get to Matt in just a second. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff, and good morning, Billy. 37 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s today. The solar eclipse starts at 11:28. Don't look up unless you have the special viewing glasses.
So you want to look for on the inside of the temple or the arm of the glasses for it to have an ISO rating.
It'll be a partial eclipse in Colorado. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
I think we had hurricane force winds. You couldn't sleep.
More than 64,000 Coloradans lost power over the weekend, and about 55,000 waking up in the dark this morning after a strong windstorm knocked down trees and power lines on Sunday morning. Some turned power off on purpose to prevent wildfires. Boulder County was most affected. Excel expects to have 80 to 90% of the power back on by tonight. Some Jeffco schools closed today. The wind sparked several fires, at least two in Evergreen. In Edgewater, a down power line sparked a house fire. No one was hurt.
Let's go ahead and declare an emergency. We've got a piece of the engine cowling hanging off, apparently.
It's typically due to a failure of maintenance personnel to properly secure the engine. These small incidents occur, but they're rarely catastrophic.
Passengers on a Southwest flight from DIA Sunday experienced a scary moment when a part fell off the plane and damaged the wing flap during takeoff. No one was injured. The Boeing 737-800 returned to DIA and was towed to the gate. The incident is being investigated. A 12-year-old boy died Saturday night when a truck crashed into Clear Creek near Empire, near the I-70 off-ramp. The child was trapped in a submerged vehicle. Despite lifting the vehicle and removing the boy, he was pronounced dead at a local hospital. Dynamic tolling on the Central 70 Express lane begins today. The 10-mile stretch through Denver and Aurora is the first to use this real-time pricing model. The cost will change based on traffic conditions. It'll range from $1.50 to $5.50. President Biden in Wisconsin today announcing a new student loan forgiveness program, and former President Trump raising $50 million over the weekend and also saying that the abortion issue is a state's issue. It's 31 in Lakewood, 33 in Littleton, 37 in Denver. Glendale police looking for a Hispanic woman, 20 to 25 years old, with a possible hoop ring in her right nostril. She's a suspect in the murder of 20-year-old Gianni Fernandez, who was killed Friday in his apartment. She's one of 3 suspects. South Carolina defeats Caitlin Clark in Iowa in the NCAA Women's Championship last night. Undefeated season for South Carolina. Head coach Dawn Staley wins her 3rd. The Rockies in action tonight at 6:40, and also the men's championship NCAA basketball, Purdue and UConn this evening. The award-winning Jeff and Bill show continues. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a high wind watch Saturday morning through Sunday morning. Partly cloudy today, windy and warm. We're going to be well into the 70s. South winds today, 15 to 30, gusts to 45 miles an hour. Windy tonight, a low near 40. Areas of rain and snow showers Saturday morning. Colder, 40s and 50s, then very, very windy. Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into Sunday, windy, colder through that whole period with showers possible. I'm meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS. The 710 5-day forecast, a high wind watch Saturday morning through Sunday morning. Partly cloudy today, windy and warm. We're going to be well into the 70s. South winds today, 15 to 30 gusts.
All right, joining us on the Jeff and Bill show is Matt Arnold. Matt is the founder of Clear the Bench Colorado. He also has history challenging Republicans with FEC complaints. Went after Bob Beaupre, went after Ryan Call, in both cases was successful in leveraging a fine against the candidates and the guys working in the party at the time. I asked him to take a look at Kelly Maher's FEC complaint against Dave Williams, the chairman of the Colorado GOP, and get his thoughts. Matt, you had a chance to take a look at that. Thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill show. What'd you think?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, Jeff. And just to clarify a couple things, the complaints that were filed by my organization, Campaign Integrity Watchdog, were not. It's not me. I mean, I know a lot of people like to personalize it. It's a very Alinsky tactic that's been used to try to attack me personally. But we don't refer to the Anderson v. Griswold case by the names of the attorneys, Mario Nicholas or Ted Olson, who are on the case. You name it by the plaintiffs. So, just to correct that record, it was Campaign Integrity Watchdog that brought the cases. And also to clarify, those were brought under state law. There are very many similarities between state law and the Federal Elections Commission, but the process is very different. And the laws are also a bit different. So just to kind of put that in context.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And other important context is just to remember that this is all part of the ongoing civil war that's been splitting the Colorado Republican Party for the better part of a decade. And Kelly Maher is on one side in that civil war, and Dave Williams is on another side in that civil war. And this fight has been going on for quite some time. You mentioned the Beaupre complaint, where Bob Beaupre was illegally running a 501c4 to attack Republican candidates in primaries. And Kelly Maher was also part of that operation. She was a contractor who provided some of the attacks and drafting of mailers and communications that the law-breaking Beaupre group, Colorado Pioneer Action, used to attack Republican candidates. So, this is a long, ongoing thing. And I see this complaint as simply another manifestation of that civil war via lawfare. And to get to the merits or lack thereof of the complaint, I mean, it's pretty bare bones. I mean, you've taken a look at it. It's really about 3 pages of a document, and it's very broad. It's very speculative. It's written in more PR or political language than legal language, and there are a lot of allegations that are just sort of thrown about without a lot of substance to it and without a lot of legal backing to it. So I see it in a nutshell, and I'll get into the details of why I say this. This is more of a political document or a PR stunt than it is a legitimate FEC complaint. I don't expect it'll get very far with the FEC. There may be some there, but I don't think it's going to meet the threshold of going very far. And let me explain why that is.
Yeah, please.
All right. So first off, she cites the complaint starts out citing the U.S. code on which it's filed, and that's great. But she's filing it against three entities: Dave Williams in his personal capacity, his campaign, Dave Williams for Colorado, and the Colorado Republican Committee. The problem with that is that there is nothing in here that could be alleged against Dave Williams or the Dave Williams campaign, because the allegations are that in-kind contributions to Dave Williams or to his campaign have not been reported. Problem with that is that the Dave Williams campaign for Congress does not have its first report due for another week. So it would be impossible for Dave to have reported any of the alleged in-kind contributions to the FEC, and therefore any complaint against him or his campaign is premature and would be dismissed out of hand for that reason. Now, the part that is against the Colorado Republican Party, again, there is a requirement to report in-kind contributions if, in fact, they are in-kind contributions to a campaign. And for that, you have to look at, and people can go on the FEC website, dubs.fec.gov, and look this stuff up for themselves. There is a handy little sort of a cheat sheet there that will tell you all about how to evaluate what the requirements are for in-kind contributions to a campaign. And so an organization like a political committee would have to report that. So if in fact these communications would count as an in-kind contribution, those should have been reported on the party's March, it sounds like, report to the FEC, and they're not there. At least they're not itemized.
And can they amend it? Can they go back and go, look, you got us, we forgot to report it?
They certainly could. And if they do believe that these are in-kind contributions, it would be a pretty simple matter to go back in, amend that March report, and include the specific expenditures that might qualify as an in-kind contribution. The biggest problem with that, though, is you have to allege, if it's an in-kind contribution, and this is where Kelly's complaint fails to meet the standard for a specificity in filing a complaint. Because again, you can't just say, oh, they did something wrong. You have to be a bit more specific than that. And if you are alleging that there was an in-kind contribution that was not reported, you have to not only identify what that in-kind contribution was, but you also have to assign at least a ballpark value to that. And the complaint filed by Kelly is completely bereft of any evaluation of what these in-kind complaints may have been. So, if you're going to say, well, you exceeded the limit, which she did say, again, just a bare accusation without any substantiating facts behind it, you have to assign a value to it. And it's not there. So under both state and federal pleading standards, it would not meet the threshold of a well-pled complaint, and it would not allege sufficient facts to allow any kind of adjudicating agency, and here it's done all by the FEC, to determine that there is an actual violation. So I think that this really is more of a PR stunt than a legit complaint.
Talking with Matt Arnold, director of Campaign Integrity Watchdog. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Now, although that organization is largely defunct, it's not too operational. I do have CIW does have a case coming up before the Colorado Court of Appeals later this month, which is challenging actually the hijacking of Colorado's previous citizen-led process for holding lawbreakers accountable for campaign finance violations. It was hijacked back in 2018 by Wayne Williams to take that authority away from the citizens, which had that by constitutional amendment, and brought back in under the Secretary of State's office. And since Wayne has departed and his office has been taken over by the incredibly partisan Jenna Griswold, that process has been abused and has been used almost exclusively to target conservative groups and organizations, and has done so in a very arbitrary, capricious, and vexatious manner.
Interesting.
That's the basis of the complaint and the appellate case that CIW is prosecuting before the Colorado Court of Appeals.
Now, you have a history. You levied fines, or you didn't, but the state levied fines on Bob Beaupre, and then Ryan Call had his law license revoked here in Colorado. Tell us briefly about those two campaigns and why maybe the one from Kelly Maher against Dave Williams is different.
Got it. Well, and that's actually a great a great place for people to look at. Go to the Secretary of State's website. You can look up complaints on the website. And this case against the Beaupre group, it was Campaign Integrity Watchdog versus Colorado Pioneer Action. That was the name that Bob gave his group that was illegally targeting Republicans in primary elections, and found guilty. And at the time was assessed the highest campaign finance fine in the history of Colorado. And that was only superseded a few weeks later when CIW won a group against an organization that Ryan Call was running, and got the highest fine, which that record stood for a few years, of $23,000 against his organization. And by the way, Ryan Call's group never paid the fine. Bob Beaupre's group, to his credit, did have to post a bond and did pay that fine when they lost their appeal in 2019.
What were those fines about? How did they get in trouble?
Well, basically, it came down to, Beaupre's group and Call's group. They were both taking money, not disclosing the source of the money, and attacking Republican candidates for office in primary elections, or in Call's case, in a special district election. And so basically, they are playing hide the money and not disclosing both the source of the money. So basically, dark money, not letting people know really who is the source of these mailers and attack ads and radio ads and everything else that were targeting Republican candidates. So, and again, as a free speech issue, you have every right to criticize a candidate in a primary or general election. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And sometimes those criticisms can get pretty pointed, and that is your First Amendment right to make those critiques and attacks and even smear mud. But under the campaign finance laws, you have to know who is making those communications. So know who the speaker is. So that's an important context for judging. Okay, this group, and let's make a fictional one, Coloradans for Fluffy Bunnies, is saying that candidate X is a bad guy. Okay, well, who's behind Coloradans for Fluffy Bunnies? Oh, well, it's this group of people. Oh, well, that's something that can actually inform a voter's understanding of where Coloradans for Fluffy Bunnies is coming from and what their real agenda is. Because everyone just sees, oh, well, Coloradans for Fluffy Bunnies. Aw, they must be good. They're for fluffy bunnies.
Now, Matt, what was your motivation in these? I mean, when we talked to Kelly, for instance, Kelly said, she was on the show on Friday, I believe. She said, look, I'm motivated to, at a certain point, the immune system within a corrupt party's got to kick in. She believes that Dave Williams is corrupt. She believes that he's using the state party to advance his own political agenda and his own political career, and we've got to hold him accountable. I'm a Republican. Kelly's a Republican. She said, like, I've got to be able to stand against this. That's the motivation for my FEC complaint. What was your motivation against Ryan Call and Bob Beaupre?
Well, so my motivation was the same as Kelly's stated motivation, although I would question whether or not that's a real motive. Again, you have to look at the context of where Kelly's been. She's been a paid political operative for well over a decade, has been in with these groups that have been attacking a certain segment of the Republican Party. And so this is an ongoing thing. CIW filed complaints against Democrats, against independent groups, against Republicans who are breaking the law and smearing people and engaging in character assassination. So my motivation and the motivation of Campaign Integrity Watchdog, it's in the name, campaign integrity, right? If you want to say something, stand behind what you're saying, be transparent about it, and don't engage in the gutter politics, in the character assassination, in the mudslinging. Talk about issues, contrast yourself with your opponent by all means. Make that comparison. Say why your guy or gal is better than the other person's guy or gal. Make that case on policy grounds, but don't take pot shots at people from hiding in the gutter and throw out lurid accusations which have very little basis in reality. And to Kelly's point about Dave, I am uncomfortable with a state party chairman also being a candidate for office. I think that's a fair critique. And Dave is not the first person to have done that. Ken Buck famously was a sitting congressman and chairman of the Colorado Republican Party, and I criticized that at the time, and I have concerns about Dave being both a chairman of the party and a candidate for office. I was concerned when the Colorado Republican Party came out and endorsed Trump in a primary election. Again, you can certainly be for Trump, and that's fine, but the party should absolutely be neutral in primary elections among its members. So that is a legitimate concern.
Talking with Matt Arnold with Campaign Integrity Watchdog. Matt, final question. Where does this go? You think it's dismissed? You think it's a nothing burger at the end of the day?
I think this complaint does not have sufficient allegations of fact or law to survive the FEC process. And so just very briefly, what happens is this goes to the FEC, they review it, they will probably reach out to both the Colorado Republican Party and Dave Williams in his campaign and ask for a response. And this will go back and forth for a bit. And again, part of my take that this is a PR stunt is this will not be resolved before the primary election. So the whole point of this PR stunt complaint is to influence the primary election coming up in June, because this will in no way be resolved before that primary election. And that's one of the weaknesses of the FEC process, is that it takes a long time. Under the former Colorado state process, you would get in front of a judge within 30 days and it could be extended once for another 30 days. You would have a resolution and get things taken care of on a pretty expedited basis. The FEC does not work on a very expedited basis. If there is, in fact, anything to this, you might find out about it next year.
Matt Arnold with Campaign Integrity Watchdog speaking to the FEC complaint filed by Kelly Maher against Colorado Republican Chairman Dave Williams. We'll continue to watch it. Matt, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thanks for reaching out, and I'll talk to you later.
Guys, generally we hear talk about medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues. Today, I want to talk to you about love. The one you love is the light of your life. And if you're like most men, You want to do whatever you can to nurture your relationship. But if you're suffering with ED, you know the impacts the condition is likely having on you and your partner. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and has successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have 5 locations in Colorado: Fort Collins, North Denver, Central Denver, Castle Rock, and Colorado Springs. Stop dealing with the lack of confidence that ED brings. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. Francis, you're going to be up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The gauntlet's been thrown down. Kelly Maher, great friend of the program.
Yeah.
By the way, lovely interview with her. Matt Arnold, no stranger to FEC complaints, saying that there's more of a PR move and that the specifics aren't there. So, Kelly, you're welcome back on. I'll tweet at you. You're welcome back on the show, and we'll have this conversation.
Yeah. Can this be amended? Can it be changed? Can I file another one? What's going to go on? Yeah.
And is
Just
this
curious.
about the civil war within the Republican Party? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. You Republicans. Let's go to Francis in Golden. Francis, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Francis.
Hey, guys. Happy Eclipse Day.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Bill, tell me what you just tell the listeners what you just told me.
Was talking to salesperson Mark Anderson, and he said, "You heard that some New York schools are closed." I'm like, what? He goes, "Yeah, the eclipse." I'm like, hey, hang on a sec. And he says there's some, and I found the story online. There's some New York schools that are closed for a number of different remarkably stupid reasons. Things like it's going to get dark and the kids might be confused to, where parents could be afraid to, we don't know what's going to happen to electronics, and just, you can name whatever dumb reason you have. And for whatever reason, because it's going to be dark for like 4 minutes, the kids have to stay home and do TikTok and Minecraft. This is why we can't have nice things, because the people responsible for educating the young kids haven't even walked down the road or the hallway to talk to the science guy and go, "Can you talk to me about this big darkness thing that's happening?" We're idiots. We are idiots. I'm sorry, Francis. Yeah, that's what's happening, man.
What are these people like? They're reverting back to like caveman status where you don't understand why this stuff.
It's the weak men create weak men create bad times situation.
Wait till they find out what you do with matches and fire. Then we're really in trouble.
No fooling. Jesus. That's awful. That's awful. Well, anyway, I don't know. I can't believe that.
I know.
That's funny. That is funny.
Oh, boy. So what's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, well, now this latest kind of mess, it sounded like that guy who was talking about the FEC complaint. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and it does sound like it's kind of an extension of the Civil War and the GOP. But I suppose it sounded more than anything like it was just premature that Williams would have to have stepped in it before, there would have be a basis for the complaint. And so I guess it's now up to Williams to not step in it, but that doesn't seem to be his strong suit.
Francis, with that line of thinking, I'm going to jump into utilize our conservative tin hats and go, well, maybe Kelly Maher secretly supporting Dave Williams and giving him a heads up of things he could change. And then don't worry, the FBI will somehow organize something in this. Go ahead, Francis. Sorry.
I love that thinking. I love that, Jeff. That's great. That's super creative, because maybe this is just a feint to get Dave to get his act together so he doesn't get caught.
Right.
I don't know.
There you go.
But I don't know. When I read the little news scroll about the reporter Fish getting kicked out of the Pueblo site and stuff, and I knew right away, I was like, well, this has to be a Dave Williams special, because nobody else could be this ridiculous. And he did it again. I mean, I guess the unfairness that she has displayed is really, I mean, the Sun is pretty darn liberal, but is it just him taking personal offense to articles she's written about kind of the general inappropriateness of being the party chair and running for office?
And look, he has that prerogative. He's the chairman, and you're talking to a guy who's kicked reporters out of his events too.
And, and it is private. So
yeah, I and this is where I may be a little different. And believe me, there's a lot of conversation happening on Twitter, on my Twitter page about this. There are people that go, look, there's nothing for us to hide, right? We've got, we should be totally transparent. We should allow people to watch. We want people to be a part of the movement of the Republican Party, all that type of stuff. I get it. For 8 years, we did that with the Western Conservative Summit. And I got to a point where the reporting was just so bad and unfair and just outright false that I felt like the coverage was there's no benefit to it. This is particularly with the Denver Post. I had this problem, and with Channel 9, where I felt like I invited someone into my house to take a crap on the floor. I'd rather not have you there. And in fact, I could go partner with Breitbart. I could go partner with Colorado Politics. I could go partner with all these other great outlets that are out there. They would fairly cover it. I'm not asking anyone to lie. I'm not asking anyone to provide false coverage of the event. But as the operator of the event, I just got to the point where I'm like, it's not worth having them there anymore. And I'd like to send a message that if you're not going to cover this stuff fairly, you're out. Maybe, but I don't know. What do you think, Francis?
I think I can understand where you're coming from for sure. Jeff, I think the thing is, it's, that's a little bit different critter than the GOP, state GOP
Very fair.
Down in Pueblo. But I do think you're right about the lack of fair coverage, especially from some of these outlets. And I could imagine exactly how you're feeling. And that's a good way to describe it. You're inviting them in to take a crap on the floor. I wouldn't want to do that. But, this seems to me to be, and look, whatever, the Sun is a little bit left leaning for sure. But this seems to me to be just kind of a thin-skinned, from my perspective, this seems to me to be Dave Williams being thin-skinned and babyish and throwing another tantrum. And he's kind of got that reputation. And I just think it's one of those reasons why I don't affiliate, because this looks to me to be this is how the Republican Party is damaging the state, because allowing these shenanigans and keeping people unelectable is allowing the Democrats to make the state house into its own little disgusting playpen. And that's a problem. I mean, the state needs a strong GOP that actually embraces unaffiliated and tries to bring them into the tent, not people who it's kind of a weird little culty clique that is thin-skinned and tries to keep them out.
Yeah. See, Francis, I agree with you there. I think, and my problem I've got with the Colorado Sun reporter being kicked out is I agree with Dave having the right, but the visual reinforces the negative stereotype that comes from the liberals, that the Republican Party is duplicitous, that they say they want free speech and they want free press, but they don't really want it, that they complain about being censored, but when given the chance, they will censor. And again, I agree that Dave is correct and has every right to do this. I don't think if given the situation, I would do it. But the real negative to me is the vast majority of people that are going to encounter this story are just going to see it as a reinforcement of a previously conceived stereotype that in some ways is unfair.
And didn't the Democratic rep, I can't remember, but she was quoted in something saying about how, hey, come to our party. We don't, exclude anybody.
We're going to test that.
You do.
We are going to test that, by the way.
We should. We really should.
I think we'll be applying for some press credentials here.
You're right. That's open invitation to just see how exactly inviting they are. But the whole thing doesn't Dave Williams have the foresight to see this coming when he pulls this?
That's interesting.
I mean, don't you just look, even if you think this lady was unfair or whatever, don't you just, kind of lean into it, go right up to her and, say, hey, how's it going? Glad to see you here, whatever. Don't you try to take the high road? Don't you do the right thing? Apparently you don't. I mean, that's the answer is apparently he does not.
Francis, great call. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Francis from Golden. His line's going to be open 303-696-1971. Reason thoughtful. I appreciate that from Francis.
What would have happened if Dave Williams would have, instead of kicking her out, walked up and said, hey,
look,
how would you like an exclusive?
But
again, I
haven't done the exclusive. I've done the same thing.
Yeah. I understand that he would be worried.
How do I not get so personal here?
I know. I try not to. I'll tap dance for a second so you can, because I can see why Dave would be distrustful of making sure the right story got out. But he could have someone sitting there either recording it or videotaping it in order to respond if
and you
necessary.
have to do that. You actually have to do that.
I agree with you. So I don't know.
I appreciate people recognizing the difference between the Western Conservative Summit and the state GOP.
Yeah.
I can't fully criticize Dave in this because I've been in the same shoes and I kept them out.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, I can't fully criticize him on this level either. The only problem I have is exactly what Francis talked about, that visually, you need to see that further down the road how this will be interpreted. And we know Fish, the reporter, did a wonderful job of refusing to leave when she first was asked, because she knew the visual that was coming, because they'd have to get law enforcement involved. She understood what the next step was. And while Dave Williams may not have seen the whole football field and see all the routes that were being run, I believe the reporter Fish did. That she recognized where this is going and where the ball is going to have to be thrown and how this is going to look.
I guess my fair critique, though, is it wasn't live streamed.
Yeah.
It wasn't live tweeted. When I worked for the state party, we did all that stuff. So you could see it all, right?
I get that,
so,
because that's good.
You're getting all the data out. So you're like, look, we're not in the age anymore where you have to rely on the media to get your information out. You can do it yourself. And I still don't. It took Joan from Lakewood for me to get the stats on the National Republican Committee.
And that is
woman.
ridiculous.
Thank you, Joan, by the way.
I love the idea of you saying we just live streamed it all. We put it all out there, because what that does, that creates a buffer against the argument of you're not allowing the press because you want to keep the secret. Like, no, we're putting this open for everybody. We just don't want your BS here. And that's a great argument.
Well,
that's a great counter.
And then I never escorted anybody out. I just made the press paid to be there. So I never, and I will tell you, one of my very favorite moments was watching Jason Salzman walk by with a little, he's a reporter here of the Colorado Times Recorder. Jason walking by with a attendee badge on, being like, hey, Jason paid to be here.
Exactly.
Right, so I didn't escort him out.
That's a personal victory. That is a personal victory. They get paid to get through the door. High five, my friend. High five.
All right. Your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home Team provides exceptional service, invaluable advice, and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers, over 14,000 of them ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're taking your call, 303-696-1971. Let's go to Rob in Lakewood. Rob, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. I did see you at convention on Saturday.
Great.
Jeff, I stopped by, kind of waved. You're in the middle of an interview, so I didn't hang around. But it's good to see you.
Yeah.
And I'm what I term myself as a solid conservative, but try to work within the guidelines of rules and ethics and avoiding the gray areas as best we can.
Yeah.
And I agree with Matt Arnold's take on this whole deal. I know both he and Kelly, and I admire them both for what they've done in their respective areas. But I think on the party level with Dave Williams, it kind of gave me a cold chill when he went through his little speech about you don't have to talk to the press and da-da-da-da, and we don't really welcome them. We know how we all feel about them, and the crowd boo. We don't need that kind of stuff. I think we need to be a little more civil and open and engage. We shouldn't have to be worried about, having open dialogue with people of differing opinions. And I just kind of felt like there were several things that Dave Williams did that disturbed me, but his leadership has really soured me with the way he's entered into a contested primary as a sitting state chair. I do not agree with that. I think that's just a wrong message to send. He's supposed to be the leader of the whole party, including his competitors in a contested CD race. And so that some of his things, I think, are unforced errors, and it just kind of gives us a setback rather than
Rob,
a step
who would you like to see as chairman of the Colorado GOP? If you had your magic wand, we got about 20 seconds here.
Yeah, I don't know. You put me in a spot because I was approached by somebody's well-known name that said he would like for me to maybe look at that seat.
Interesting.
But my perspective is I would do it because I would build a kitchen cabinet people in all sectors of the party to try to come to a consensus that moves us forward as a whole rather than fighting each other.
Rob from Lakewood. Rob, I appreciate the call.
Nice.
Interesting analysis of Dave Williams down at the State Assembly this weekend.
Kind of sad he didn't say I should be the chair.
Yeah, Bill, there you go.
You want to see chaos? Woohoo!
We'll continue the conversation. This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. Donald Trump is expected to unveil his abortion policy on Monday. In a post on his social media platform Truth Social, the former president argued for a more moderate approach amid a crackdown on abortion rights in many states. The Republican candidate suggested that under his presidency, he would ensure abortion was accessible in cases of rape, incest, or where a mother's life is at risk. The announcement is likely to come under fire from both sides of the debate. In his post, Trump said common sense was needed to win the election. Americans are counting down the hours until today's total solar eclipse. From Maine to Texas, Americans will be able to see the phenomenon. In New York, Haley Bianco has more.
This April will also be the last total eclipse visible from the United States until August 23, 2044. More than 32 million people live inside the path of totality, where the moon will completely obscure the sun. Many millions more live within traveling distance of peak viewing locations, which means if you live in the path of the eclipse, be prepared for traffic jams and sold-out accommodations. An estimated 21 million people traveled to see the 2017 solar eclipse, creating stop-and-go traffic jams around the path of totality.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's the 9 o'clock hour. You've tuned in to Jeff and Bill on 710 KNUS. I'm Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. Another beautiful day in the city of Denver, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now.
I just got to say that I feel like that while some of the text messages are trying to be kind and encourage me to explore science, I don't think that it really is fair for you to go and keep telling me to go out and stare during the eclipse at the sun. I feel that is necessarily more negative and seems to be more harmful and not as happy as the texters have suggested. They seem to think, hey, explore science, Bill, go outside and help yourself and stare at the sun. And I don't think they're being nice.
Why is this such a... I was just looking at Fox right now. It's like the Cincinnati Zoo prepares for 4 minutes of darkness.
I know.
Like, really?
4 minutes of darkness. I know.
Really?
And I like the idea that, the animals are going to freak out.
Right.
Okay, but for 4 minutes. I mean, we're not really talking about this. It's just really weird. And and are you going to go do anything? I mean, about 11:30 or so this morning, you going to see the eclipse?
I take all of my orders and examples from Donald Trump. Yeah,
yes,
from Donald Trump. So I will stare directly at it without any sunglasses on.
Because at first
that's real MAGA, man.
At first it was I would take all my clothes off and then we have a ceremony. Then I'm like, wait, we may not want this whole thing here. And then the other question was, you've been invited to the ceremony too? I'd say, okay, I'm going to see you there. No, I did one yesterday. Now, again, if nobody got out there to get your eclipse glasses, here's an easy thing you can do at home. Right when the eclipse is starting, go to the kitchen, grab your colander, the thing that strains all the noodles, go outside, put your back to the sun, and hold the colander up above your head. The shadow that is cast on the ground in front of you will give you a bunch of mini eclipses. That is a really, really easy way at a moment's notice. If you weren't able to get the sunglasses or anything else, that's a solution. But again, back to the sun and then hold the colander in front of you and you can see the shadows in front of you.
You are not true MAGA if you're not willing to look directly at it without sunglasses.
That's great.
We've been having a great conversation today in the 6 o'clock hour. Patty Calhoun joined us, editor of Westword, and then Joshua Sharf at 7. Matt Arnold at 8, getting into Kelly Maher's FEC complaint, whether or not it has merit. And then we've been taking your calls all day about the Republican State Assembly. We were broadcasting down there from 9 to noon or 9 to 1 on Saturday in great conversations. Lots of people came by. And conversations is whether or not you think Dave Williams is the right person to lead this party right now. I think the energy down there from that room was definitely with him.
Yeah,
definitely with him.
If you had questions about enthusiasm and whether or not Dave was going to be able to coalesce certain members of the party, I think that he proved a lot of people wrong in some areas. That he absolutely has people enthused and excited and passionate and willing to do the hard work on the ground in order to help the Republican Party in Colorado. And not what I was expecting. I was really impressed with the one voice and how committed everybody was on Saturday. It was nice to hear.
Yeah, definitely not low energy. So,
no, not at all.
But people have some fair critiques, or whether or not you thought it was fair for the reporter to get kicked out, which brought up a bigger question for me, Bill. And we're going to get to this, and we'll do the news with Blake in just a second. Do you trust social media to be neutral in this election?
Oh.
And all the Republicans just spit out their coffee laughing. Of course not. But this was Matt Taibbi on censorship this past week.
When Elon came to you and the Twitter files, and we find out that quite literally the government was coordinating with big tech to silence people. I was in the Capitol just a couple of weeks ago, and Jim Jordan showed me the docs. I mean, my name was on the list of people that the government was coordinating with Twitter in terms of suppressing tweets and all of that stuff. And I said to him, well, what can I do? Do they pay you out? Is there a lawsuit? Nobody, he said, no, you don't get a letter. You don't get an apology. The janitor won't high five you. There's nothing. There's nothing that they can just infringe on your free speech, and you really have no recourse. So you were part of, obviously, of all of that. What was your main takeaway? Is your main takeaway that it's really big tech's problem at this point? Is it the government's problem? Is it a 50-50 problem? Where are we at?
That's a really good question. So when I think to start at the beginning with Elon, obviously that was a lot like the journalistic version of Charlie Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the golden ticket to look through the secret files of one of the world's biggest corporations. And the first thing that we were looking for was actually had to do with Miranda's story. And I thought because of a couple of interviews involving Mark Zuckerberg that we maybe would find a few emails from the FBI about that one story, because we knew that had been suppressed. And ironically, we didn't find a whole lot about your story, Miranda, but we did find within days just a whole galaxy of emails that said things like flagged by FBI, flagged by DHS, flagged by HHS, flagged by Treasury, and it went on and on and on. And we realized immediately that there was this huge sort of operation that spanned the entire federal government to pressure not just Twitter, but 24 at least internet companies to suppress different kinds of information. There's a journalist in the audience here today who writes real clear, Aaron Mate, who there was an incredible communication in there where the FBI passed along, they basically passed a request on from the Ukrainian Secret Service. FBI is like, hey, can you take this guy off Twitter? There was a whole, long list of, spreadsheets full of requests about all these different journalists, and the scale of it was mind-boggling. And I think that, what unites all three of us, we were all three sort of caught up in this story of mass censorship that had up until very recently been hidden. And it's, I'm very grateful to you because this is, this has to be out in the open more and people need to know more about it.
So that was Matt Taibbi talking about the massive amount of censorship that took place in this upcoming election. Do you trust social media companies to be neutral as it relates to this election? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Yeah, I trust X now, but not YouTube. Definitely not YouTube. 41 and sunny in Denver.
YouTube. Is that the reason?
We're on YouTube. You want to change that? I can get us because we're on. I think that's I can get us knocked off really quickly here in the next 10 seconds if you'd like.
No, I'll tell you what. You and I could do it. You and I could do a challenge to see which one of us could get us kicked off first, because we're both really good at that.
I bet I would win.
Yeah, you probably would. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
41 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 50s. The solar eclipse starts at 11:28 this morning. Don't look up unless you have those special viewing glasses, not sunglasses. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
I think we had hurricane force winds. You couldn't sleep.
Wild weekend of wind damage in Colorado. More than 64,000 Coloradans lost power, and about 55,000 waking up to no power this morning after those storms knocked down trees and power lines early Sunday morning.
Let's go ahead and declare an emergency. We've got a piece of the engine cowling hanging off, apparently.
It's typically due to a failure of maintenance personnel to properly secure the engine. These small incidents occur, but they're rarely catastrophic.
Jeff Guzzetti, former FAA investigator, passengers on a Southwest flight from DIA Sunday experienced a scary takeoff. A part fell off the plane and hit the wing flap. It had to return to DIA emergency landing. No one was injured. The plane is a Boeing 737-800 and is under investigation. If you're on I-70 this morning, or right now between Denver and Aurora, you'll see dynamic tolling in the express lane. This 10-mile stretch is the first to use this real-time pricing model. The cost will change based on the traffic conditions. It'll range from $1.50 to $5.50. Glendale police looking for a Hispanic female, 20 to 25 years old, with a possible hoop ring in her right nostril. She's one of the 3 suspects wanted for the murder of 20-year-old Gianni Fernandez, who was killed in his apartment on Friday. Former President Trump says that abortions should be left up to the states to decide. He also raised $50 million over the weekend. And President Biden in Wisconsin today announcing a new student loan forgiveness program. The Supreme Court stopped his previous attempt. It's 37 in Arvada, 38 in Inglewood, 41 in Denver. Joshua Sharf on with the fellows this morning from the Independence Institute, joining the guys, and says that Iran is causing most of the damage in the Israel-Hamas war.
So Iran, of course, is the mastermind behind all of this. Hamas is their client, Hezbollah is their client, the Houthis that are disrupting world shipping, apparently with our inability to stop that or unwillingness to do what it takes to stop. The address there for all of this is Tehran.
And it's clear Israel is going to finish off Hamas before they end this war. South Carolina beats Caitlin Clark in Iowa in the women's NCAA basketball championship last night. The men's championship is tonight. Purdue and UConn. The Rockies take on the Diamondbacks this evening at 6:40 at Coors Field. The award-winning Jeff and Bill show continues. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a high wind watch Saturday morning through Sunday morning. Partly cloudy today, windy and warm. We're going to be well into the 70s. South winds today, 15 to 30 gusts to 45 miles an hour. Windy tonight, a low near 40. Areas of rain and snow showers Saturday morning. Colder, 40s and 50s, then very, very windy. Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into Sunday, windy, colder through that whole period with showers possible. I'm meteorologist Don Day, 710 KNUS. The 710 5-day forecast, a high wind watch Saturday morning through Sunday morning. Partly.
All right, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill show. That's Darius Rucker. By the way, he was at the game yesterday.
Really?
He popped up in the Iowa versus South Carolina women's.
Yeah, that'd be NC, North Carolina. Yeah, that's where they come out of.
But he's a South Carolina fan. I think he was he's dressed as a South Carolina fan.
Yeah, they came out of, I think that's where Hootie comes out of originally too. The band does. Yeah. Again, he's got his own solo career, but to me, still Hootie and the Blowfish.
You know that song about Rock Me that we just played, the interview song, the intro song, Rock Me Like a Wagon Wheel. Yeah. Somebody tried to map out all the cities that he talks about because it's about the trucker driving.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually map out. So.
Yeah, I bet there were some points where he's like, that doesn't rhyme.
You would have to like go back.
To go forward.
Yeah, that's right. So here's the question I asked for you all. We just listened to Matt Taibbi on talk about censorship. Some of this is shocking. When they got the Twitter files, they found out that there had been a whole series of spreadsheets flagged by the FBI. These are Twitter accounts flagged by the FBI, flagged by DHS, flagged by HHS, flagged by Treasury. We realized that there was this huge operation that spanned the entire federal government to pressure not just Twitter, but 24 at least internet companies to suppress different kinds of information. And then he uses one example of a Real Clear Politics reporter, journalist, where the FBI basically passed on requests from the Ukraine Secret Service to take this guy off of Twitter. It was a whole long list of spreadsheets full of requests about all these different journalists, and the scale of it was mind-boggling. Matt Taibbi talking about Twitter files and censorship. So over the weekend, you had the chairman of the GOP remove a reporter from the Republican State Assembly. You have Matt Taibbi talking about all of this censorship that took place. Do you think that we're going to be able to trust the social media to be generally pretty neutral in this upcoming election? Or do you think they're going to put their hands and tip the scale against Donald Trump? What do you think, Bill?
Here's the thing. I don't look at the media in and of itself to necessarily always, I don't know. I mean, okay, it's hard to get to this. Okay. What I don't view is that the media is always going to be necessarily neutral. I don't come to the table viewing it going to be that way for a variety of reasons.
Sounds like Dave Williams.
Well, for a variety of reasons. And what I'm saying is the idea of being neutral. And what I mean by neutral is that they both sides things. I have to give you this side of the story and I have to give you this side of the story. And that is not real journalism. Real journalism should be, here's this side of the story, here's this side of the story, and this is where the truth is, in the middle, or on one side or the other, wherever that leads. And the media has gotten lazy and assumes that if I tell you what this group thinks and what this group thinks, then I'm being a journalist. And they're not. The other part is I disagree with the idea that there's always validity to both sides, that you always need to let both sides have their voice, and that not letting one side have their voice is somehow censorship or not correct in the conversation. And I'm going to use an extreme. And I understand this is an extreme, and I'm only using this as an illustration. And I acknowledge that it does not apply to the vast majority of conversations, but I'm using it just as an analogy, okay? Because I know people are going to yell at me about this. So I'm trying to preempt some of the text messages and calls we're going to get. The idea of the National Man-Boy Love Association. I don't agree that we need to talk about both sides. I think there's a no, don't touch the kids. And then there's a, okay, shut up now. That's it. I disagree that I need to listen to the other side about what their perception, what they feel. I disagree with that. And I know that different people are going to have different feelings and their analogy is going to be different. So I have a problem with this default that both sides always have a valid point in an issue, because that's not always true. So,
but my question though is, look, in that case with the Man-Boy Love Association, whatever it is, clearly engaging in illegal activity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So these platforms don't have to platform that.
Yeah, exactly. And I understand it's a bad analogy.
Well,
but it was
and
just an extreme.
This was Elon Musk's response to Don Lemon, right? Is like, look, if the people get together and the people say this is illegal, we're not going to do it. We're not going to platform it. We'll keep it off. But with regards to the FBI, DHS, HHS, Treasury, and I want to keep it out of the realm of illegal activity. If you're promoting sex trafficking on these platforms, let's shut it down.
Yeah.
But you have examples here, both Miranda's story with the New York Post and the Hunter Biden story, and then Aaron Matai, where the FBI passed on requests from the Ukraine Secret Service to take these guys. So you're actually getting into censorship at this point.
Yeah, that's
But wouldn't you?
I'm not sure we're getting into censorship though.
Why wouldn't it be censorship?
Because for me, it would be censorship if the government said, do this now or else we're shutting you down. We're taking your money. We're pulling your license. You're no longer a company unless you do what we want. At that point, it's government censorship. The request, the thing for me is, as Taibbi announced, but the issue is that Taibbi outlined it very accurately, that these were requests.
Right.
These were asks. They weren't demands.
But doesn't that frustrate you? Do you don't want to live in a country?
No, not really.
I don't want to live in America where DHS, FBI, HHS are flagging accounts because they disagree with the content. Not illegal activity, but disagree with the content. Why the hell are these guys on a list?
Well, hang on.
By the FBI.
The issue being is I think you're coming to a conclusion on the fact that the reason the request was made was because they disagree with them on X, Y, or Z.
What would be the reason for Aaron Maté of Real Clear Politics to be censored by the Ukraine Secret Service?
Again, that is one in which I have a long list of questions about why the request was made. What was the reasoning behind the Ukraine Secret Service. What was it
I don't
that
think
they
he's
saw?
trafficking
Well,
drugs or
hang on a
women
sec, though.
or
But the issue is
Russian.
Again, the issue is
weapons.
we don't know what the allegation is. I would like to know the allegation before I say that it is bogus or not, because I don't have enough information. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying
so let's
yes
just
or
play
no.
it out hypothetically. And I
Yeah.
would like to get your calls on this. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. And I'll play it out hypothetically in a second for you. Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. And no amount of car, house, or success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos. Just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair can grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Visit advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right. So my take on this, Bill, is this is where conservatives, I think, have a very fair critique that the election in 2020 was corrupt.
Yeah, how?
Not in the numbers, but in how what should be publishing platforms, right, were not free and fair to Donald Trump and the Republicans, censored stories, created lists of accounts that these guys are finding. Dave, who was hosting that video, what's his name?
Yeah.
These Republicans are finding themselves on lists, and if we really, really care that our elections are free and fair in the United States, then these social media platforms should not be colluding, and I use that word colluding, with government agencies to press their hands on the scale in order to support Democrat candidates.
That's a good point, and I like the idea that you're using the word colluding. The problem I have on the position is we need, want, and desire moderation inside of our social media. And what I mean by that is not looking for it being moderate in the middle. I mean content moderation. We are looking for that because nobody wants to get on YouTube, X, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is, and just see the last 1,000 tweets, posts, videos.
Right. Or
it's
lies.
All,
For instance, if somebody said whether it was
Yeah.
Joe Biden or Donald Trump, if they specifically lied or pushed a false story, but you want the community notes there, right?
But even if it's true, even if it is, let's just say that it's all true stuff. But without that content moderation, you're going to see the last 1,000 posts, and some of those could be about, hey, here's my lunch here in Montana. I went to the zoo today. Here's something silly my daughter did. It's not focused for you. So what I'm saying is that the functionality of a social media site, whatever one, has to depend on content moderation because that's how you keep the audience engaged. I mean, it has to be there. So the idea of just being, unfettered and saying all of the stories and everything else, and we're gonna have no moderation, I think is it's inaccurate and it can't be done.
So that moderation, believe me, I'm reading books about this. That moderation is geared towards increasing engagement, right?
Yes.
So what
Yes.
YouTube looks at its viewers as fish.
Yes.
It wants you to eat the bait and stay around, and they want you on the platform. Their goal as a business is to keep you on the platform as long as they can so they can feed you as many advertisements. I don't care about that moderation. What I'm talking about is when the government and social media companies, and particularly social media companies that favor a candidate, now adjust the reach in order to help their favored candidate win.
I can see that.
They shouldn't be engaging in that's an in-kind political gift at that point.
Yeah, I also believe that is an assumption that is not backed up by the facts. And what I'm saying by this is that I hear this all the time from conservatives, that because what we are saying is not getting out there, that somehow we are being wronged. And I disagree with that, because sometimes this happens on both sides, on the liberals and conservatives. Sometimes what the conservatives are saying is wrong and doesn't need to be magnified.
What would be an example of that?
Sandy Hook and the idea that it was a false flag operation with actors.
Okay,
that was completely wrong, but it was very popular inside of conservative realms. Also, Obama being a secret Muslim, that he was going to implement Sharia law. Obama wanting to, let's see if we can go through them. Obama wanting to have martial law and wasn't going to leave office. Pizzagate. Just this past week, Tommy Tuberville referred to Democrats as being in a satanic cult. That comes from Pizzagate. We had a guy show up at a pizza parlor with a gun to free kids that in a basement that didn't exist.
All right, so what's the response?
COVID-19.
But
there's a list of things.
If you're going to put your hands on the scale and you're going to go, that's wrong. Okay, so I'll give you the strongest case you have out of all of this. Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Okay. Sandy Hook was not a false flag. That was I've read that was a horrific murder spree that took place by a criminally insane man. It's not illegal to believe that it was false flag. It's horrible. I think it's heart-wrenching, but is it illegal? Is it illegal? And then is it right for the social media companies to then not only just put a disclaimer up to say that was wrong and false, those false flag ideas, but I've got Bill back now. He's talking to callers here. So your strongest example, Sandy Hook. Is it illegal to believe that it was a false flag? No, it's absolutely not illegal to believe, but it also, because objectively it's not true, it should not be given equal voice. And that's what I'm talking about, is I keep hearing that, well, I believe that Sandy Hook is a false flag, and here are the reports of the people that were killed. When you say equal voice, though?
Because what I'm saying is that what I hear from the conservatives are, just because I say it or believe it, you have to make it equal on your social media platform to something else. But wouldn't that be
censorship?
Well, hang on a sec. What I'm saying is, if the story about the Sandy Hook families gets 3 million views, and I put my story in about Sandy Hook being a false flag operation, and they put a community note on me, and I only end up getting 10,000 views, now I claim censorship. Now I claim the fact that they're putting their thumb on the scale, and my voice isn't being heard because my voice is not equalized to what the other voice is. Yeah. And that's the problem I have with this, is I believe that the conservatives are looking at this saying, regardless what we say, we should be given a mandatory equal percentage of the conversation. And what I'm saying is, you need to sometimes check the portions of the conversation you're having, because some of them do not deserve to have that large of a voice at the table.
So there's a few different things happening there. Give us a call on this, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. So let's say the YouTube algorithm is neutral, right? So it's neutral. If people that want the truth on Sandy Hook.
Isn't it hard to use the word truth in that statement, though? Because some people believe the truth is something else, and that's part of the issue.
I'm going to grant to you that there's a truth about Sandy Hook and there's a lie about Sandy Hook. Okay,
yeah. But isn't it weird for the conversation? I'm just saying, I'm not trying to derail you, but it's weird for the conversation to have to do that.
They people want to watch the truth on it, and so they want to watch that video. And it's available to them, and they can watch it, and the algorithm goes purely neutral. We're going to serve this up. Now you have people out there that want the lie about Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Okay. Shouldn't they be able to have the same access to be able to watch that on a neutral algorithm as the truth? Because if you tweak and then you say the Sandy Hook lie is a lie, right? And it's rightfully a lie. So therefore, we're going to take the dial and we're going to make sure people can't see it as much.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore the algorithm's no longer neutral. Don't you think that the algorithm should be neutral? If we believe in free speech, the algorithm should be neutral. You can put a community note up, I guess. But are you saying that the algorithm should be adjusted, that YouTube should be able to turn the dial down on that, and it's not going to be freely accessible to people, even if they wanted to see it?
Yes, absolutely. And the reason, because...
So how is that not censorship?
Well, here's the reason. Because it's a private company, and private companies can censor anything they want. The issue, and you use free speech, is the government. I don't have the government coming in and telling me one versus the other.
You kind of do. You have these lists that the government's not a neutral arbiter here.
No.
Now, you could say the government's not penalizing and forcing YouTube, but you can't say that the government's neutral.
No, I'm not saying they're neutral, but the issue for me is it gets to the level of censorship once they implement consequences, negative, and saying, if you don't do this, these are negative things that are going to happen.
Right.
And the thing that's left out of Taibbi's comments there are the long laundry list of public companies, private companies, candidates, private individuals, public individuals, actors, actresses, comedians that also have reached out to Twitter and YouTube and everything else and asked them to remove comments. And so the thing is that this conversation happens as if the government is the only one doing this. Everybody's reaching out to all the social media companies.
There's a difference with companies. So,
well, there's only a difference. There's only a difference if the government uses the power of the government to say no, to say you have to do this because we're telling you to. Other than that, it is just a request, just like any other candidate, any other company, or any other private or public individual. It is still just a request.
You've almost answered my question, which was, do you trust social media to be neutral in this election?
I never expect social media or any company to be neutral. I don't expect that. When I go and I listen to ABC
so is that
News,
a problem for a free and fair election? Aren't these publishers? You don't think these social media companies are publishers?
It's the thing is, I think the social media companies don't fit neatly into boxes we've had before, and calling them a pure publisher doesn't fit what they do at this point. I believe it is a different type of formula, and we're trying to fit it into older formulas, and I think that it doesn't work functionally that way. And so it has to be in a new definition, because they're part publishers, but they're also part content creators because of how it functions. And so I don't think they fit in either one. So I don't think either set of rules apply. And I know it's a messy answer. And I think that if we are going to allow anybody to have things like, like Patty Calhoun earlier this morning, when she was congratulating us about being Westword's Best of Denver Talk Show, just saying.
Well, partly because of conversations like this.
Exactly.
This is not happening anywhere
not
else.
at all. Is when we were talking with her about it, and she was talking about, how the functionality of the media and what the coverage is like. We know what Westword is going to deliver. We know where they sit. We know where ABC sits. We know, and I disagree that we are expecting complete and total neutrality out of any media outlet. And she talked about how anybody can start their own podcast or own newspaper or do this own thing online, and to expect any of those people to be completely and totally neutral is ridiculous. I mean, I am unaffiliated. Am I neutral? No way in hell. No way in hell am I neutral. Not at all. I'm unaffiliated. I don't belong to either team, but I'm not neutral. And I think that we can't expect the media necessarily to be neutral. I don't think that's the expectation.
It's amazing to me that we want free and fair elections in this country, and we're willing to grant that social media companies can put their hands on the scale.
But they can't in anything, though, and they should. I mean, it's a private company.
In a free and fair election. That's where I think we disagree on that.
Why? So you're in favor of things like equal time. So you would say that on Fox News, if Fox News brings on Karl Rove,
I think Fox
they need
News
to bring
is
on
different than a publisher.
No, but
like
but you're talking about media. We're just talking about media companies.
I put Facebook more in the category of like AT&T. They need to provide equal neutral access as the algorithm works for the people that want to be able to see the news on their side. So AT&T can't say only Democrats can use the phones this year. They're not allowed to do that by law. And so I put Facebook, Twitter, YouTube more in that category of like a phone company where they need to provide equal access as it relates to their algorithm for people to be able to access the news. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app, 6801. Parler was taken off the App Store. Lost its Amazon servers. I can't remember exactly around the time, but all of that is censorship, and it was happening. The concept of free speech was squashed for a while. The DoD told social media in 2016 that they had to adopt their DARPA censorship software, or they would be fined $50 million. I don't know if I know if that's the case. I'll have to look that up. But
yeah, I don't know either.
I just think that I would want, going into this election, that the primary channels for the dialogue to happen in a democracy to be as neutral as possible. All right. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented, non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the natural grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial, no strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following.
All right, we're talking social media and whether or not you think social media is going to be neutral in this election. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. I don't think there will be. I don't think anything's changed from 2020 as far as social media, which is disheartening to me.
What's
like
neutral,
I said,
though? What's your definition?
So
of neutral?
not adjusting the algorithm to tank conservative positions in a. So I'm going to go back to this phone line operation.
Yeah. But are all of the conservative positions equal? Should they all be given equal voice? Same thing.
Matter.
Same thing. Oh, yeah, it does. It does. And same thing with the Democrat. Not all Democrat voices or positions should be given equal share of the conversation at the table. I don't need to hear from the people that say we all need to go back and live in caves because of the global warming.
You can ignore them. You can absolutely ignore them. But what I don't, and the algorithm will adjust to that. If you don't want it, then that's not a problem for me. Algorithms choosing what you see based upon personal preference and choice doesn't bother me. What does bother me is shadow banning accounts because you get a list from a government agency or because your social media company doesn't like Republicans.
Yeah, again, that is still a conclusion that is yet to be proven. And the idea being that these companies, and it's always interesting that we come back to this victimhood persona on the conservative side, that somehow there is this great conspiracy that is preventing our ideas from getting out.
Yes.
Maybe some of your ideas
There's
are
a lot
stupid.
of examples of that.
But maybe some of your ideas are stupid. Maybe they shouldn't get out. Things like Sandy Hook being a false flag. That shouldn't get out. Pizzagate. There's certain things, maybe those don't need to be viewed as
who makes
equal
that
shares.
choice? Who makes that choice?
These
You?
social media companies.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're talking about censorship.
No, not at all. Not in the same thing. No, because social media companies should be allowed to do that as private companies. They should be allowed to. They should be allowed to moderate the content based on what they think is possible and what they think is appropriate to the audience. And we've had how many conservatives go out and try to start their own version of X-Twitter so many times. So go ahead. And that was the argument always. If you don't like what the business is doing, go do it better.
Yes.
And you tried. Go ahead.
They can. I'm not disagreeing with they can do that. But here's so because these social media platforms are closer to the operations of telephone companies than they are magazines or Fox News or anything like that. Here's why.
Not really.
A phone company cannot go, we're going to censor your speech because we don't like it. If it's illegal, they can. But if they cannot listen into your speeches and go, we don't like what you're saying, so we're not going to allow you to call out anymore. Which is essentially what these social media companies do by shadow banning. They say, we're not going to let you call out anymore because we don't like your speech.
But the companies are not functionally like telephone companies. It's not that free and fair access. They can choose who to give a telephone line to. They can choose how they want to raise money. Yeah, they can. They can choose that all the time. But whatever they want, because they're a private. Yes, they can. They are a private company. They can choose.
Verizon cannot decline conservatives to get Verizon.
No, Verizon can decline any customer they want. Doesn't matter.
Based upon,
but the issue, I know, but here's the idea is you jump to the conclusion that this is all because of conservatives, because somehow we are wronged. And that's the issue, is this victimhood mentality.
I just literally played audio about this, Bill.
and you weren't wronged. There were requests that were made. And we don't know if there were any requests made about liberal journalists. We don't know other requests that were made. We also don't know requests that were made by any other entity. Any private entity, any public entity, any public person, any private person, any actor, any actress.
But this is government, which is different.
But they didn't mandate it. They requested it. The government can request whatever they want. The government can request that we have someone on here. We don't have to say yes.
Why wouldn't you want free speech in an election?
See, the thing is, your assumption is it's not free speech. I
disagree.
disagree.
You just told me you support censorship.
No, not what you're talking about. I'm talking about censorship and free speech with the government. A private company can do whatever they want. And I find it interesting that a conservative is sitting here saying that the private company doesn't have purview over what they're doing.
Now,
no, I disagree. It's a different amalgamation.
AT&T and Verizon cannot limit your ability to call because they don't like your speech.
But they're
Facebook
not the same
and Twitter
thing.
shouldn't be able to limit
But it's not the
your
same
post
thing
because they don't like your speech.
But they're not the same thing as a telephone company. They are different than a telephone company and different than a publisher because of
they're both private companies.
But they're different as far as the functionality. The functionality of a telephone company is not the same as a social media company. How they function is not the same. But social media companies are different. Yeah. So
if I wanted to call you, Bill, and have a conversation about whatever I wanted to, how's that any different than me on Twitter posting something about what I want to?
But we're having communication right now, and there are rules and regulations about it as well, and both from our company and both from the federal government, because there are things that's licensed here. And so they have the purview to come in.
But that's different than a phone call.
Yeah, but the government's not coming in and telling AT&T you can't have a conservative have phone calls, and if you do, we're going to do this to you. That's the thing. The government can come in and request from AT&T not to have the conservative, whatever it is.
And my question to you is, why wouldn't you want a free and fair speech in election?
Your assumption is because the government requests it, nasty things. The government can request whatever they want, and the private company can do what they want, and they should be allowed to. I find it interesting that the conservative, again, is like, no. We have to have some sort of version of either socialism where everybody has to be promoted the exact same. And if everybody's tweets are not promoted the exact same way, if everybody doesn't get the exact same number of views, somehow something has been misapplied.
303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Do you believe and do you trust social media to be neutral in this election? I think we both agree that that's not going to happen. All right. With all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to tell you about Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. You can see for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. Do yourself a favor. Go there. Staff goes beyond expectations, and they provide excellent service, affordable, friendly, reasonable, gentle, careful, kind service. And if you're experiencing recession on your upper or lower gums, ask Dr. Mike about the groundbreaking procedure called pinhole gum rejuvenation technique, a treatment option for those experiencing receding gums. It's scalpel-free, suture-free, and a graft-free procedure. Just a tiny pinhole and gentle repositioning of the gums. Visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com, or call 303-233-1335 for a free consultation. 303-233-1335. Dr. Mike and his wife were in here just the other day recording some spots for us. Absolutely lovely people. You'll enjoy working with them. We'll get to your calls and texts. All lines are full, so we'll get to those in just a second. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julie.
That's right. Next week, the 19th, we're going to be with Brandon Tatum at the Black Eyed Pea, which is going to be a ton of fun. Come hang out with us, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Try their delicious food, and you can tell Bill some things to his face.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. That's going to be fun.
We're right up against the end of the show here, but let's grab Peter in Denver real quick. Peter, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. Good morning. You guys are missing a real central and important point. There's something called a regulated monopoly. And when an organization becomes a monopoly, they are regulated. And when they are regulated, they fall within certain responsibility. The water company is regulated, the sewer company is regulated, the telephone company is regulated, okay? So they have to provide service to everybody. They cannot discriminate. There are regulations. Newspapers are not regulated. Social media is not regulated. Now, if they become take on a large percentage of the population, like Amazon, maybe Facebook, maybe Twitter, when they take 50, 60, 70% of the market, they become a monopoly.
Peter, I appreciate the call. Look.
Yeah, call us back, Peter. I'd love to have that conversation longer. I wish we didn't run out of time. I'm sorry. But I understand he's saying that once it becomes a regulated monopoly, then the rules can change.
They can change. But here's my point, and we're right up against the end here.
Yeah.
Social media companies is where democracy takes place. Why wouldn't we want that to be as free and fair as possible?
Good point.
Give us a call next time. Charlie Kirk's next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.